Good evening, everyone, and I declare the meeting open at 7:01 p.m. tonight. Can I firstly acknowledge His Grace Bishop Christodoulou for joining us tonight, and also the Mayor of Bayside, Bill Savranovsky, for coming tonight. Thank you for joining us. I would like to acknowledge the Bidjigal people of the Eora Nation, who are the traditional custodians of all lands, waters, and sky in the Georges River area. I pay my respects to elders past and present and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people who live, work and meet on these lands. Please be upstanding for the Australian National Anthem.
Streams falling on water free, with golden soil and wealth untold, home is God by sea. Our land abounds in nature's gifts of beauty, rich and rare. In history's page, let every stage advance Australia fair. Joyful strings that let us sing, advance Australia fair. The radiance of the cross we turn hearts hands to make this commonwealth of us renowned of all the lands. For those who've come across the seas with boundless plains to share. With courage let us all combine to advance Australia fair. In joyful strokes let us sing, advance Australia fair.
Please remain standing for the opening prayer, which tonight will be held by His Grace Bishop Christodoulou of Magnesia. Thank you, Bishop.
In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Heavenly King, Comforter, the Spirit of truth, present everywhere and filling all things, the treasury of good and giver of life, come and dwell in our members of council, and cleanse us from every impurity, and save our souls, gracious one. Yes, Lord Jesus Christ, our God and Saviour, you sent the Holy Spirit upon your disciples and apostles on the day of Pentecost. Pour forth your Holy Spirit into our hearts, so that as members of the council, we may discern and do your will in all things, praising your most holy and magnificent name in your sight and benefit of the community members. Amen.
Thank you. You may be seated. I have one apology tonight from Councillor Peter Marnie. Can I please have a motion to accept an apology and grant a leave of absence moved by Deputy Mayor Borg, seconded by Councillor Smurley? I'll put that. All those in favour say aye. All those against, I declare that carried. There were no requests to attend via audio-visual link. I'll just read out a disclaimer. Staff and public are reminded that this meeting is being recorded for minute-taking purposes and is also being webcast live on Council's website. This recording will be made available on Council's website. The order of business is as shown in the agenda. Council's Code of Meeting Practice prohibits the electronic recording of meetings without the express permission of Council. I have a number of disclosures of interest tonight. First disclosure being from Councillor Symington. Councillor Symington has declared a pecuniary interest in item CCL 037-24, which is part of the Assets and Infrastructure meeting, which is ASS 018-24, on item TAC 036-24, report of the local traffic advisory committee held on the 11th of June. For the reason that her residence is close to the proposed changes, Councillor Symington will not partake in any deliberations on this matter, and she will leave the meeting and not participate in the consideration and voting on this item. Disclosure of interest from Councillor Pekara. Councillor Pekara has declared pecuniary interest in item NM 0.55-24, exemption from the low and medium rise housing reforms, as she has a close relative who owns a property where income is gathered from it within the Georges River LGA, and the value of the property may be affected by the impact of this item. Councillor Wang declared a non-significant, non-pecuniary interest in NM 057-24. Congratulations to the Australian Chinese New Year Art Society, as his story was published in one of the books published by the Australian Chinese New Art Society. Councillor Kaniarski declared the non-significant, non-pecuniary interest in NM 058-24, actions to be taken by Council in connection with previous and current allocations and usage of playing fields in Football St George, as his son is a coach at a club under Football St George. Councillor Catras declared a special disclosure of pecuniary interest in NM 055-24, exemption from low and medium rise housing reforms, as he has an interest in the land. Example is the owner or has another interest arising out of a mortgage, lease, trust, optional contract, or otherwise. We now move on to public participation. Firstly, can I make an apology for all those people that registered to speak tonight, but unfortunately, because we have a policy of 3 for, 3 against, we weren't able to accept every single one of those persons tonight to speak on items of public interest. But we encourage you to send emails if you didn't get a chance, and hopefully you'll be able to address council on future matters. We do have a policy of first in, best dressed. In lieu of addressing the council in person, written submissions were received by the following members of the public. There are 17 speakers registered for tonight's meeting. I would remind the speakers that they have a 3-minute time limit. The first sound that you hear will be that you have 1 minute remaining, and the second sound that you hear will, can I ask you to please conclude your comments. The first speaker tonight is Miss Irene Hatzipetros, who is speaking in person tonight on NM 058-24, which is actions to be taken by council in connection with previous and current allocations and usage of playing fields to Football St George. Irene, please. And the mic is just the button on the right. Perfect.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Commence. Mr. Mayor, councillors, general manager and staff, ladies and gentlemen, good evening. My name is Irene Hatzipetros and I'm the chairperson of Football St George. I would like to begin by acknowledging Football New South Wales Director Debbie Chapman, some of our member clubs, fellow Football St George directors, staff and players who join us this evening. I stand before you this evening in support of the motion and to discuss a matter of great importance to our member clubs and football community. The Council's decision to share our sporting grounds with other codes has had significant repercussions, and we are here to briefly shed the light on the challenge we are now facing. First and foremost, allow me to acknowledge Council's efforts in supporting a variety of sports in our community through ground sharing policies. While the intent behind these policies is commendable in promoting inclusivity and opportunity, the implementation has unfortunately led to significant repercussions for our member clubs. Council have enforced a sharing of grounds policy on our clubs who do not have the capacity to share grounds, resulting in the displacement of clubs and members deregistering from the affected club. We speak of equality and inclusivity, yet these principles are not reflected in the practical realities and current policies imposed by Council. The limitations placed on our member clubs undermine our ability to meet the needs of our players and community effectively. While Council is focusing on taking away from football because other sports are growing, what is being missed here is the continued growth of football, including an increase in female and junior players as we see each year, including registrations in 2024. I take this opportunity to also address a misconception that has been circulating in that notion that Football St George and its member clubs get everything they desire. This assertion is fundamentally incorrect. Football St George and its member clubs are integral parts of our community, tirelessly working to provide a vital service to the community. The traffic and the massive volume of people eager to participate in football are testament to the popularity and importance of our sport in our region. These clubs do not exist to serve their own interests. Rather, they are committed to offering a voluntary service that enriches the lives of countless individuals through sports and recreation. To dismiss the challenges they now face or to suggest that they are overly privileged is to overlook the significant contributions they make. If there are not enough fields, council needs to solve that as the organisation that provides a service to the community by finding ways to build or access more fields. Taking from football to help another sport is not a reasonable or an appropriate response. Further, we have not seen any analysis on the per capita access to green space across sports. Without that analysis, council's proposed resolution or policy may be flawed. Thank you, councillors.
Thank you, Irene. Our next speaker is Kathleen Wang with a written submission which will be read out by staff, and that is on item NM 053-24, traffic congestion in Hurstville CBD. Thank you, Vicky.
My name is Kathleen Wang, a local business owner of JW Realty on Forest Road in the centre of Hurstville CBD. Thanks for the opportunity to speak in support of Councillor Nancy Liu's motion NM 053-24, traffic congestion in Hurstville CBD. As a pure local in Hurstville, I have spent considerable time here for business, shopping and other daily activities. I don't think I am alone in experiencing the traffic congestion and difficulties, particularly on Saturdays, which can pose safety hazards, affect local business prospects and reduce overall productivity. We understand that this type of problem cannot be easily solved overnight. It requires professional study, extensive public consultations with local businesses and communities, and communication with major stakeholders in the area such as Westfield. That is why I fully welcome and support Councillor Liu's motion for starting the process to introduce both short-term, immediate measures and long-term solutions. Will the Council keep the community informed about the outcomes after Councillor Liu's motion is adopted tonight? We look forward to seeing these measures become effective in the future.
Thank you, Vicky. Our next speaker is Brendan Gibbs, who's speaking in person on NM 058-24, actions to be taken by Council in connection with previous and current allocations and usage of playing fields to Football St George. Thank you, Brendan.
Commence. Thank you, Mayor, councillors, for giving me the opportunity to speak tonight. I speak on behalf and in support of our governing body, Football St George, in regards to the motion of sharing sports fields between different codes. While the idea of a communal approach to sports facilities may seem practical and economically sensible at first glance, the reality is this brings significant setbacks that can't be ignored. We need to consider the integrity of playing surfaces, as different sports have vastly different requirements. For example, the wear and tear caused by heavy contact sports such as rugby league and rugby union with their heavy scrums and constant tackling only diminishes the quality of the field and the games, but it also increases the risk to injury of players. I understand from a personal perspective at our club that Georges River Council somewhat ignores the safety issue, that we have a concrete strip boundaries that our playing field has. We received remarks from the council. Since there's been no reports on the issue, it's currently not a risk. This just shows that it's very reactive and not proactive in regards to safety. With more traffic on these fields, this opens up more issues that clubs are faced with on a weekly basis. I would also like to bring to the face the scheduling conflict that's already an issue with the amount of clubs and 10,000 strong members. Managing shared fields means constant negotiations and compromise that includes issues like different equipment setups for different codes, upgrading to facilities, canteen sharing and line marking. This can create a logistical issue that community volunteers do not have the time to go back and forth with these negotiations. Our code has the market clearing numbers that requires the demand for these fields. Other codes, with all due respect, have significantly lower numbers, half of what our numbers are. Our club is currently ordered for our mini roos to train on the main field because we are at the must share with AFL. We've realised there's no consistency with their training. So some days they're not even on the field, and our mini roos have to train on the main field with adult teams. In conclusion, while code sharing fields may seem like a practical solution in theory, it presents numerous challenges that outweigh its benefits. The compromise on field quality, scheduling conflicts, cultural dilution, increased maintenance complexities, and potential hindrance to sports development are significant issues that we cannot afford to overlook. Our experience with Georges River Council shows that we have very little faith in any changes, nor reasonable and sensible decisions to be made. However, we believe we need to support our governing body in Football St George in the constant pursuit to ensuring that their members are safe and the growth of the game. Thank you.
Thank you, Brendan. Our next speaker is Peter Malios, who's speaking in person on the same item, NM 058-24. Thank you, Peter.
Mr. Mayor, councillors, ladies and gentlemen, fellow clubs behind me. My name is Peter Malios. I'm the club president of Carlton Rovers FC, a local Georges River Council-based community grassroots football club, here today to support the motion tabled by Councillor Kadras. Our club, established in 1979, has proudly occupied Harold Fraser Oval as its home ground for over 20 years. We built our club on the dedication and passion of many volunteers, including my late brother, Sock Malios, whose legacy as Football St George chairperson and volunteer of Carlton Rovers FC was a beacon of inspiration. For all the 20 years plus, we have had positive experiences sharing Harold Fraser Oval with St George grade cricket. Our collaboration has been successful and mutually beneficial as exclusive winter seasonal tenants. However, at the beginning of 2023, we were shocked and outraged to learn second-hand and without notice that our long-standing access to Harold Fraser Oval was being stripped away. Despite our 2-decade tenure, there was a complete lack of engagement, consultation and contingency planning from council. An apology from council citing internal communication failures between departments was given, but it amounted to nothing. For 2 years, this blunder has gone unrectified, leaving our club in absolute ruins. In 2023, we were forced to share the ground with another and very much incompatible professional sporting code, leading to numerous conflicts and exposing our young players and parents to inappropriate confrontations. This lack of access and respect severely impacted our club, causing us to lose numerous players and members. The council assured us we would not be affected in 2024, yet here we stand today, still facing the same damaging issues, even worse than 2023. At the beginning of 2024, we offered council an option to request training for our juniors on Tuesdays, Wednesdays for our senior teams, and shared access on Thursdays, and allowing the other code to have exclusive access on Mondays and Thursdays shared. This request fell on deaf ears. Ultimately, all we got was Wednesdays exclusive, and we have to share on Tuesdays and Thursdays. There's a lot more I could say, but what we need to understand, the result of these actions from the other code include they have taken complete advantage and coverage of the ground at times that was meant for shared use, resulting in confrontations. Use of camera drones during times when our children are training. Loud music when our children are training. Use of the ground when the grounds are actually closed by council due to wet weather. Using equipment, large mats and barricading aspects of the amenities. Garbage and mess left behind. The building left unlocked, and the inability of us to even use the amenities when they are present, a threat to the safety and working with children concerns. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. Our next speaker is Mr. Craig Epton, speaking on item CCL 027A-24. That's property matter, proposed reclassification and sale of part of Moore Park, Beverley Park. Thank you, Craig.
Thanks, Mayor and fellow councillors. I'll keep mine pretty short and sweet because we have put in a written submission. I just want to reiterate the reason that we are seeking the re-clarification of Moore Park is for a safety reason. Just last week, I had almost a head-on collision in that section of the car park. The irony is the traffic is the heaviest while the club is closed, as people try to try to bypass the corner of Jubilee and Princess Highway. So I think we've made a pretty fair offer. Of this year's piece of parkland, that the funds could be better used in the community. So thank you.
Thank you, Craig. Our next speaker is Rosie Zhao, speaking in person on NM 057-24. Congratulations to the Australian Chinese New Art Society. Thank you, Rosie.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Rosie Zhao. I'm here tonight just for this book. Not only this one, 4 books organized by Australian Chinese Art Society. And me, as one of the writer, and my husband over there as another writer for both for 2 articles. We live in Australia, especially we live in St. George area for more than 20 years. We know this area very well, and we see all the area keep on improve. So we're so happy to live in this area, and at the same time, we can have chance to record what we see and how we experience in this area and in Australia in this book. So we're so happy we are part of the society and we are part of the history. And I'm so happy to see like Councillor Bin Wang fully support, and congratulations to these books launching this year. So I come here to support Bin Wang. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Rosie. Our next speaker is UIE, speaking on NM 057-24. Congratulations to the Australian Chinese Arts Society.
Thank you. Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to speak a few words on Councillor Bin Wang's motion concerning extending congratulations to the Australia Chinese New Art Society concerning the creation of these books. I am the author of the preface for the volume 1, volume 2, volume 3, volume 4 of this book, Too Blue to Be True. I fully understand and appreciate the significance of books, which form part of the history of Australia. In cooperation with the New Art Society, I fully understand, I know very well how hard they have worked. So their contributions speak for themselves. Therefore, I fully support Councillor Bin Wang's motion to for extending a contribution to the society. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. E. Our next speaker is Eric Chu, speaking on question we've noticed 017-24, parking issues at McMahon Street, Hurstville Plaza. It's a written submission that we were read out by staff. Thank you, Vicky.
My name is Eric and I'm the owner of Bakery King Cake Shop at 241 Forest Road, Hurstville. I recently took over this shop and have been working hard to keep this small business running. Thank you for the opportunity to discuss QWN 017-24 parking issues McMahon Street and Hurstville Plaza, raised by Councillor Wang. Councillor Wang has visited our shop multiple times to address our concerns, and parking, or the lack thereof, is a major problem for many businesses on this part of Forest Road. We need nearby parking for several reasons. Many of my customers park at Westfield and walk 20 minutes to pick up cakes because they love our products. However, some prefer the convenience of Westfield's parking and choose to buy cakes there instead. The lack of nearby parking puts us at a disadvantage. We require regular deliveries of raw materials, and our delivery vehicles currently have to park far away, forcing suppliers to push trolleys hundreds of metres to our shop. Some suppliers have even threatened to stop deliveries due to the lack of nearby parking. My staff and I need convenient access for work. A quick drop-off often results in a $300 fine, which is a significant burden. It's so bad that I don't know any shop owners nearby who haven't been fined. There is a taxi rank right in front of my shop that can be used for deliveries only in the early hours of the day. While it's better than no delivery at all, it is far from sufficient. How can I expect my staff and suppliers to complete deliveries before 8 a.m? Further down the road, past Hurstville Plaza, there are short-term parking and more generous loading zones. Why can't the businesses on this side of Hurstville Plaza have the same amenities? Thanks, Eric.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Tim Yu, who is speaking in person on NM 054-24, partnership with Service New South Wales Business Bureau.
Thank you. My name is Tim Yu. I run the Yu Starbucks restaurant in Hurstville CBD. Like many small business in Hurstville, my business was struggle a lot during COVID. However, I did not expect we struggle even more the post-COVID. With the combination of a higher interest rate, higher rent, higher cost of living, we are experiencing a 20% downturn in my business compared with last year. I speak to council Mr. Wong a lot, and he told me he's serving the New South Wales business. Really help us to connect with other service New South Wales government has to offer. I made several calls and have a 2 meeting with the inspector in New South Wales, New South Wales. As I am going to critical period of regulating my list with the landlord, I asked the Service New South Wales to help the entrust me to an independent value for the small business in New South Wales of commercial list. That list give me a great option for my business operation. I feel support council more and thanks to New South Wales Service government and George River Council, and thank you the mayor and everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, Tim. Our next speaker is Jenny Gu, speaking on NM 057-24. Congratulations to the Australian Chinese New Art Society. It's a written submission. Thank you, Vicky.
My name is Jenny Yu, the coordinator of the Too Blue to Be True series. On June 6, 2024, our fourth volume, Too Blue to Be True, was successfully launched at the New South Wales Parliament House by the Premier Chris Minns. We have worked day and night to achieve this, and it's our dream has come true. Thank you, Georges River Council, for funding the first volume of Too Blue to Be True in 2019, and again the fourth volume this time. We want to extend our great appreciation towards Miss Anne-Marie from Georges River Council, who was instrumental for this project's takeoff. We also like to pay special thanks to Councillor Ben Wang for his continuous support for this book series and other activities organised by Australia Chinese New Art Society. Thanks to our old friend Premier Chris Minns, MP, for supporting the Too Blue to Be True project from our second volume onwards. We also thank the members of the Premier's office for their meticulous attention to every activity. We are so proud of our creative team. We have academic guidance from Professor Han Jing. Every time we have large-scale event, we have Professor Han Jing's guidance and participation. We have also sought consultation from Dr. Yu Hai He, Dr. Guan Wei, and poet Ying Shang, who have provided us with great insights. Our committee played a crucial role. Our Vice Chairman, Dr. Chen Zi Guang's cover design is brilliantly professional. Our Vice Chairman, Chao Tai Jun, committee members Jiao Jingping and Chen Jing have all made great contributions to our team's work. Of course, our Secretary and Editor-in-Chief, Mr. Tang Kai Liang, worked harder than anyone else. The success of these 4 books bears witness to his countless sleepless nights. The Too Blue to Be True project is a continuous project from 2019 to 2024. The 4-volume series contains a total of 145 personal stories for Chinese immigrants for the 30 years. We hope that through these community activities, we can further promote the integration and development of diverse cultures in the community and make greater contributions to Australian multicultural society.
Thank you, Vicky. Our next speaker is Joe Bianco, speaking in person on CCL 043-24, Working Together for a Better Future 2022 to 2026 delivery program for the 24-25 operational plan and updated resourcing strategy. Thank you, Joe.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My name is Joe Bianco and I am a member of Project Penshurst 2222. Firstly, I'd like to thank you for allowing me to speak here tonight on this important issue. I've lived in the Penshurst area for 28 years and enjoy the facilities and lifestyle Penshurst has to offer. One of the local establishments I attend on a regular basis is TJ's Coffee House on the corner of Penshurst Street and Bridge Street in Penshurst. I'm seeking for an amendment to the Georges River Council 2024-25 budget to include provision for funding for a safety barrier at this intersection. Over the years, I've noticed the intersection outside the coffee shop has become more congested with motor vehicles and foot traffic. People often sit outside these premises and enjoy the outdoor seating, especially in the summer evenings when the coffee house becomes a wine bar. Over a number of years, it has become evident to me that the intersection is not safe. The current intersection configuration directs traffic towards seated patrons. I often see cars speeding down from the railway station towards the coffee shop, turning right into Bridge Street. In wet conditions, it would not be unreasonable to assume an inexperienced driver could lose control of their vehicle and mount the footpath where patrons are sitting outside the coffee shop. Currently, there are no safety barriers, safety rails or fencing to prevent a driver who has lost control of the vehicle crashing into customers. By creating a physical barrier between vehicular traffic and pedestrian traffic, we aim to mitigate the risks and ensure a safer environment for all. I'm quite familiar with the consequences trauma and negative impact motor vehicles have on drivers, passengers, pedestrians and immediate family. Having spent 35 years in the police force and attending thousands of motor vehicle collisions in the Georges River area and other Sydney locations, I believe I possess the knowledge and foresight to know when an area is unsafe and in need of urgent attention. The proposed fencing barrier will not only enhance public safety, but will also contribute to the aesthetic and functional improvement of Bridge Street. We envisage that it will be integrated seamlessly with other surroundings and create a vibrant neighbourhood whilst prioritising public safety. Project Penshurst has been actively liaising with members of Georges River Council and grateful for the completed projects thus far, including new bitumen at the council car park, high pressure cleaning of the footpaths and footpath repaving of uneven ground. Thank you for listening to me this evening, and I urge you to support the proposal in the 2024-25 budget.
Thank you, Joe. Our next speaker is Mr. Costa Dantos, who has provided a written submission on MM021-24 boundary adjustment. It'll be read out by Vicky. Thanks, Vicky.
The St George Council would be greatly beneficial for the following reasons, among many others. The St George area has historical regional status from as far back as Federation in 1900. The St George area is renowned among nearly all Sydney-siders as a nomenclature used for the St George football team, leagues, clubs, sporting group, Facebook groups, the leader and hundreds of others. As a resident, I am proud to be from the St George area of Sydney, but have no identification with being a Georges River resident. On both sides, the Rockdale Council part of Bayside from Brighton to Oatley are all one, have people travelling for work, leisure and others all the time from one side to another. And there is no weird competition or similar associated with each other. A united St George Council makes sense, has logical boundaries and was one of the original council amalgamation plans. The Rockdale area has almost nothing to do with Botany. Sharing Botany Bay is insignificant, as by that logic, Kurnell and Woolooware should also be part of Bayside Council. Rockdale, Cogra, etc. is currently split in half with no logical boundaries and no social, cultural or transport link or connection with Mascot compared to Lugano, Hurstville or Kingsgrove. As earlier insinuated, a St George Council and as proposed would make for logical boundaries and be a great permanent solution for the local council area that makes sense for centuries to come with the M5, Cooks River, Georges River and Botany Bay itself. Currently, Georges River Council, as catchy as the name is, the river is bounded also by Liverpool, Sutherland and some of Bayside Council in half of Sans Souci, which is cut through the middle with Bayside Council. With more residents and properties, better holistic planning and management rather than ad hoc or split town centres everywhere can lead to better outcomes and potentially better economic management and council rates. The old Botany Bay Council should instead merge with Randwick Council, being the southern eastern suburbs of Sydney and only being separated by a small road. Hurstville, Cogra and Rockdale should finally be merged as one too. Let's create our own culture, which councils do with certain perks, uniqueness and pride like the Northern Beaches and Sutherland Shire, for example, currently do very well. Bayside residents sounds bad, could refer to any bay, and there is another one in Melbourne which is very annoying and confusing. A St George Council amalgamation is logical, makes sense, and is socially and economically beneficial. Thank you. Costa Danos.
Thank you, Vicky. Our next speaker is Vince Carobs, who's speaking in person on MM021-24, also on the boundary adjustment. Thank you, Vince.
Mr. Mayor, esteemed councillors, my name is Vince Carobs. I was a career policeman for many years, and then I became a journalist, and I ran as the head of communications and events at Bayside Council for a period of some 12 years. And after that, I became a freelance writer for Arc Television and Beyond 2000 Productions, where I'm currently situated. I had a very pivotal role in the amalgamation process, and I need to confess something to you. I'm the man who came up with the name Bayside. It's my segue to the last speaker. I'm here to ask you to correct a wrong. And the wrong was the amalgamation we had with Botany. As a professional media person and the zeal I had for my work, I put together what was basically a marketing agency, and we marketed the hell out of pushing for an amalgamation with Botany. It was wrong. It wasn't the right fit. And I piggybacked off all the ICAC inquiries in the media to make sure that we got a strong positive result for Rockdale, being seen as the logical choice to correct what was basically a corrupt and inoperable council. I know that for the last 52 or so years that I've grown up in this area and lived in this area, I feel a sense of guilt that this amalgamation ever took place. Bill Sabanosky, the current mayor of Bayside, and I go back a long way as kids. He too, if he really dug deep down inside, knows how wrong it is to be associated with a council that has nothing to do with the culture and thriving life we have here at St George. We bleed red and white. But you councillors, you have a gift. You have the foresight and the fortitude to be able to convince the powers to be to right that wrong. I would love to live the rest of my life knowing that you had a pivotal role in righting that wrong and bringing St George back to where it needs to be. I thank you.
Thank you, Vince. Our next speaker is Mr. Steve Miller, who is speaking on MM021-24, also on the boundary adjustment, which will be read out by staff. Thank you, Vicky.
I want to share my thoughts on why it's a great idea to combine Georges River Council with the old Rockdale Council to make a new St George Council. I've lived here all my life, run a small business and deal with the council daily, so I have a good understanding of how this change could benefit us all. I fully support the Mayor's comments in the St George Leader about our area being historically significant and a single community of interest with overlapping community, sporting and cultural organisations. The Mayor, Councillor Elmier, rightly pointed out that the proposed St George LGA is geographically cohesive with no natural barriers creating divisions or separations within the area. This shows that we are truly a connected and unified community. It can be a hassle dealing with different councils for different things. Bringing them together to create one St George Council would make things simpler for everyone. We could get things done more efficiently, and it would be easier for us residents and small businesses to navigate through council processes. As someone who runs a small business and works with the council a lot, I know that having a unified council would make a big difference. It would mean quicker responses, clearer decision making, and better services for all of us. With the new St George Council, we could see improvements in infrastructure, more support for local businesses, and opportunities for our community to grow and thrive. I believe that by joining forces, we can build a stronger, more inclusive community. We'd have a say in what happens in our area and feel more connected to our local government. This new council would bring together the strengths of both Georges River and Rockdale, creating a council that represents all of us and celebrates our community's diversity. I'm excited about the idea of a new St George Council. I think it would make a positive difference in our lives. I'm here to support this change and help make it happen. Thanks for listening. Beth Steve, proud resident, small business owner and community member.
Thank you, Vicky. Our next speaker is Simon Burns, who is speaking on CCL 040-24, and that is the property matter at 6 Dora Street, Hurstville. Who's speaking in person? Thank you, Simon.
Thank you, councillors, staff and mayor. Look, I'll keep it short and sweet tonight. As you know, the Dora Street property is currently used by Project Youth, an incredible asset to our community that provides vital services to our young people. They include mental health support, education, case management, and very life-saving support. Although I praise the council and the staff for their decision to hopefully put through a concession for the next 6 months, I would also like to leave you with a very staunch warning. If we lose Project Youth, and they have identified that they will leave, if we do not work harder to keep them, it will be devastating for our young people. Currently, in 2024, Project Youth was forced to turn away 951 young people from their door. So take into account what tonight is. So that's a young person that's turned away from support, care, and vital love that they need to be sustainable. That is what we're faced with. Now, I would like to leave on a positive note. Other councils, when we talk about this isn't hypothetical. So our darling council down south, which is the Sutherland Shire Council, have actually managed to support Project Youth and make it sustainable. Now, they offer them concessional rent, they encourage them to use services, and I had the unique pleasure of actually attending a cafe that they run, which is a social enterprise in the St George LGA, in Sutherland Shire, which they've trained over 320 young people who are at risk of homelessness, got them employment, got them training, and got them off the streets. Additionally, they run peer mentor programs where they have young people go out and talk about sexual health to other young people. They have sports programs. They do all these amazing, incredible programs because they're supported by Sutherland Shire Council. I think personally that there is no reason why we can't do better in our community, and I would praise the council for this, hopefully their decision to keep this concession rent, but we do have to have a solution long term. Thank you.
Thank you, Simon. Our next speaker is Brenda Lee, who has a written submission on NM 053-24, traffic congestion in Hurstville CBD. Thank you, Vicky.
As a business owner and local area resident of Hurstville, I support Councillor Liu's motion regarding easing traffic congestion in Hurstville CBD. It's been a nightmare driving into the CBD every weekend, especially during the morning and afternoon period, not to mention during wet weather, the traffic chaos, vehicles are at a standstill and seem impossible to leave the CBD area around Westfield. As a business owner point of view, the traffic congestion deters customers from entering Hurstville and perhaps they may shop at another suburb. More importantly, if there was an emergency evacuation, the traffic congestion will pose a threat to saving lives. Therefore, I support Councillor Nancy Liu's motion to find a solution to ease traffic congestion in the Hurstville CBD area. Thank you.
Thank you, Vicky. And our last speaker tonight is from Julian Finch, who has a written submission on MM023-24, condolences on the passing of Shirley Connolly, OAN. Thank you, Vicky.
I have been made aware of a condolence motion being proposed for the late Shirley Connolly, mother of former Council General Manager Gal Connolly. My name is Julian Finch. I am the current president of the Connells Point Netball Club, which is located within the local government area of Georges River. We were extremely saddened to hear of the passing of Mrs. Connolly. Her contribution to the sport of netball, particularly in the Campbelltown Netball Association, cannot be understated. A lifelong commitment to the sport she loved was enough to earn her the prestigious accolade of an Order of Australia medal. In more recent years, Gail and her daughter Michaela, her granddaughter, have been members and supporters of our club at Connells Point. Gail as a coach and Michaela as a junior player who has represented both Sutherland Shire and Campbelltown District in their state titles teams and Metro League. Shirley was a well-known and highly regarded netball administrator across the entire Netball New South Wales community and was kind enough to lend her support by sharing her experience and offering guidance to our club in both an administrative and operational capacity as we negotiated the growth of our club, ensuring that we were able to drive both performance and fairness on and off the court. The Connells Point Netball Club supports the motion of condolence as well as the naming of the Coronation Park complex in her honour. We thank the Council for allowing us this indulgence to record our sympathy for her passing and offer our support to the family. Julian Finch, President, Connells Point Netball Club.
Thank you, Vicky. This concludes our public participation, and now we move on to other items on the agenda. First item on the agenda is the confirmation minutes of the previous meetings. That is CCL 036-24. Do I have a mover for that? Moved by Councillor Smerdley, seconded by Deputy Mayor Borg. Are there any questions, councillors? There being none, I'll put the motion. All those in favour say aye. All those against, I declare that carried. If I can kindly get someone to just turn off that mic. Yeah. Thank you, James. Next item on the agenda is the Merrill Minute 021-24, which is the boundary adjustment put forward by me. Councillors, given that this is quite a significant topic of discussion within our community and more broadly, I'm going to allow for speakers for, against, and any questions that councillors wish to put forward. I'll take that the body of the boundary adjustment Merrill Minute be read, and I'll review my right to have a say if anyone wants to have a say for me. Councillor first. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I start in this chamber by reiterating the sentiment of our St. George region, one community, one council. This sentiment is shared amongst many of us here and in the community, and this is our opportunity to get this right. To do it right and make things better. When our council's business papers come out last week, and seeing this motion, I must say I've never felt this excited about the council meeting. I'm excited and overjoyed that we have this opportunity, and sharing this sentiment with many others in our community, 65% in fact, is an opportunity to get this right. With the current boundaries, not only unnecessarily divide our St. George community, but they divide our town centres. The question is who thought of dividing our town centres in the first place? It makes no sense that Kingsgrove, Cloggera, Carlton, Ramsgate, San Susan, and Allawah are split into two. You live on one side, then you work on the other. You work on one side, then you go play sport on the other. You finish your sports training on one side, then you go to the pub on the other. Good luck having a council issue with both sides. Two sets of councils, two sets of problems, and one big headache. The next point is that all our community organisations are St. George based. They are all referred to as the St. George organisation. These overlapping organisations are fundamental to our community. One will make it easier for them to provide their community-based services and administration with the one council they have to liaise with. Anyway, I thank the Mayor for this motion. I encourage others to support it as well.
Thank you, Councillor Smerdley. Our next speaker is Councillor Pekara.
Mr. Mayor, I speak in opposition to this motion only because it should not be the role of residents of Georges River to decide whether residents of Canterbury Bankstown or residents of Bayside of what LGA they should live in. I support self-determination, and I view that it is the liberty and responsibility of residents in these LGAs to decide which LGA they would like to live in. It's not the role of somebody who doesn't live in one of those LGAs. So I oppose the motion.
Thank you, Councillor Picard. Councillor Lansbury.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm also speaking against the recommendation and the report. I'd just like to start by acknowledging that the Mayor of Bayside, Bill Saranowski, is with us tonight. Welcome, Bill. Interesting agenda item that you've come to hear tonight. I also want to acknowledge the amount of work that you've put into this, Mr. Mayor, and I can see that from a very high level, it does have merit, but when you drill down to it, within the body of the report, it does say that it was partly triggered by the resolutions of Bayside that to demerge, which was the Botany side of Bayside looking to demerge from the former Rockdale side. They're still in their process of doing that. And when I first heard about this last week, I thought, okay, well, the Canterbury Bankstown aspect does make sense on paper. But then again, when you drill down and you look at the assets that are involved in that belong to Canterbury, they're not going to give that up willingly. And neither is Bayside. When I first looked at it, I was looking at the map. I was looking for a small sliver of Bayside and I couldn't work out which part you're referring to. Then I realised it was actually the entirety of the former Rockdale. This first came to us in about August 2020. There was a former councillor put up a motion similar to the one for the Canterbury aspect, and we're meeting online. It was during COVID, and I think it was you, Mr. Mayor, moved a motion from the floor, so to speak, or online, to incorporate a request to the Boundary Commission to include south of President Avenue to the river, I guess, down to Sandringham. And I know at the time I said something like, I voted against it. I think it was only myself and Councillor Payer that voted against it, and I spoke against it, saying it was like burgling half of Bayside at midnight. And I do appreciate the heads up that you've given us this time, and there has been articles in the Leader and on Facebook, and there's been quite a bit of discussion. I've had a number of people contact me saying, where did this come from? Why now? But I think that this time really it's just another attempt to burgle our neighbouring councils, but this time in broad daylight. I have experienced a disruption of an amalgamation process. We had our speaker here tonight. Thank you for enlightening us with your views. You've seen the light. I'm glad. It's a bit too late really though, isn't it? We had to go through that process. It was incredibly disruptive for our community based on a flawed premise of the KPMG report, which none of us ever actually saw. And it wasn't a successful outcome for many councils. I was always of a mind that we needed to die in a ditch over it and fight it. And unfortunately, there wasn't the appetite at Cogra. The councils that did actually fight the amalgamations are the ones that still remain standalone. And we've got the disparity of numbers of Bankstown and Canterbury Bankstown being huge, 300 and nearly 400,000, I think, in Blacktown, and Canterbury Bankstown is in the high 380s. And then we've got the smaller council areas like Burwood and Hunters Hill, which, there's a huge disparity. So it was an incredibly flawed process. And, from a very high level and from a political perspective, this could be seen as being advantageous to Labor. That doesn't sway my view at all. I still think it's a terrible idea. Sorry, with respect to Ms. Mayor, I think it's a terrible idea. I think it's the wrong time for us to be discussing this. It's 2.5 months until the local government elections. Who knows who's going to be here after that? Some of us maybe none of us. And if this proposal was to go ahead tonight, we would be effectively leaving behind a landmine for the incoming council that they would have to deal with. It's really, we should be focusing on service delivery to our existing residents and not a hostile takeover of our neighbours. Most people, I think, are more concerned about cost of living and housing. And when they walk out their front door, I've always said that most people's interest in local government is only sparked when it's not picked up or there's a DA going on next door to them. Most people don't take a huge interest in it, but local government achieve a lot. And the bigger you get is not necessarily better. That's one of the downsides, I do think. I was vehemently opposed to it, as I've said a couple of times. We had a shotgun wedding with Cobber and Hurstville, and we're all very suspicious of each other when we first came in, and I'm sure you've had the same thing, Bill, with Bayside and the former Rockdale and Rockdale and Botany. It's a lot of this until you sort of settle down and find your way through it. But it's not really a priority at this point in time. We should be focusing on servicing our current residents and not looking to increase our footprint. Nobody has ever said to me we should be increasing the footprint of Georges River LGA. And yes, we did flag it a few years ago in the flawed amalgamation process of potentially having St George Council. However, those numbers would be 288,000 according to the report. And I just did a bit of a quick look today. That's higher than the City of Sydney is about 218,000. It's more than Parramatta, which is about 269. It's more than Sutherland at around 230. The bigger you get, the harder it becomes to remain local government. There are more layers of bureaucracy. There are more layers for people to get through. Service delivery, in theory, may get better, but you will find it very hard to identify a resident that would say, particularly in the former Cobber, I can't really speak for the former Hurstville, that would be supportive of the amalgamation that we've had. My perspective is the genie is out of that bottle. We need to make the most of the situation that we've got. Unfortunately, Bill, I'm going to leave you to sort your Bayside Botany thing out because I don't think we have any business getting ourselves involved in that. We need to stay in our lane and focus on our own residents. It's just, I just can't see that this is the right time. I think there are so many reasons that I just can't support it. And I get the disruption to the community, the disruption to the staff. It was an incredibly painful period of time in that 2016, 2017 period. And anybody who was on staff at that point in time will remember that, who's still with us here tonight. It isn't the right move for us at this point in time in this part of the election cycle. You know, if the new council was of a mind to consider it, well, then maybe we should, but the state government's not going to pay for it. So we're not going to pay for it. There's a lot of rebranding that goes on with these things. It's an incredibly expensive process to follow. We've got our budget tonight. You know, there's never enough money in the budget to satisfy all of the wishes and demands that we've got of our residents. We had a contingency.
You need an extension of time, Councillor Lansbury.
Can I finish just on this?
Yep, sure.
Yeah. We had a contingency here tonight from Football St George who are concerned about getting their share of access to sporting fields. Well, there's a huge demand on all of council's resources. And I think that we need to be focusing on what we have now rather than looking to buy ourselves a whole new set of problems at this point in time. So I'll leave it there. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lansbury. Councillor Catras.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Look, I won't talk very long because over the weekend, I was actually R as to whether I was going to support this motion, but I've come to a certain conclusion, and unfortunately for you, Mr. Mayor, I will be opposing the motion. But having said that, I do believe that you've actually presented the case very well. And I think what we have to take into consideration is that I looked at a bit of the history, and I found that that in the past, since 1901, there's always been a push to amalgamate the Greater St George Council. 1901, 1905, and in actual fact, in 1946, there was a move to merge the council through a Royal Commission, and the Royal Commission concluded that Hurstville, Kogarah, Rockdale and Bexley should amalgamate. Now, what happened? Well, what always happens, it's the political dynamics that changes things. Neither Rockdale, Kogarah, or Hurstville were amalgamated. The only two councils that were amalgamated were Bexley and Rockdale. Political expediency, which is what happened in 2016.
I call it political expediency. What happened in 2016? There was a whole push to actually amalgamate the councils. There was I must admit, I was one of those that rejected amalgamations. I actually pushed hard for Cogra to remain on its own because I think, as I kept saying at the time, Cogra was the jewel in the crown of St George. It's the great jewel in the crown of St George. But we weren't going to get our way. The Antichrist of local government, what's his name, Mike Baird, who then took all the hard decisions and ended up getting a $2 million job with the NAB. Well, thank you, Mike. You did a wonderful job in destroying Cogra, Hurstville and Rockdale. And of course, then we had this great debate between Hurstville wanting to take over Cogra. Of course, I understand why. Cogra was in a very good position. And then we tried to get together with Hurstville, Cogra and Rockdale at the time. And I was one of those that are in that picture that the mayor put in the submission that he provided. Yes, I thought, well, if it's going to be a St George Council, it has to be Cogra, Rockdale and Hurstville. But what happened? Another piece of political expediency, a real piece of great expediency. It didn't become St George Council. It became Georges River. I wonder why. I think some people said if you amalgamate Hurstville with Cogra, you might get a Liberal council. Or if you amalgamate Rockdale, Cogra and Hurstville, you'll get a Labor council. So of course that's where the political expediency comes into play. That's politics. That's what happens. It's what matters to the individual and what matters to the power players. Now, having said all that, yes, I suppose if we had the time, like Councillor Lansbury had said, if we had the time to look at it, there are many, and I commend the Mayor on the submission he provided us. But if we had the time to look at it, seriously negotiate with and get involved with community consultation, asking the people that are going to be affected by this amalgamation, well, we might have a chance to really look at it. Or for instance, questions like, what is it going to cost the ratepayers? What's it going to cost? They gave us $40 million as a bribe to amalgamate. That was Mike Baird. It was 20 million and 20 million for various projects. That was a great bribe. Not that I really appreciated it, because I'd rather Cogra remain where it was. Now, we also need to know how is it going to impact on the strategic plans, like our local strategic planning statement, our housing strategy, blah, 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 and the rest of it. There's so much that has to be done. And I think we do have a problem here. And it was by Councillor Lansbury. The problem is 2.5 months out of an election. How do you justify putting this forward? I understand the Mayor has tried to justify it, and it's all going to be dealt with by the Minister for Local Government, etc. But I can't find it inside of me to actually support the amalgamation at this point in time. And I think, quite rightfully, I don't know who's going to be there. You might all be lucky and be back again. Well, unlucky and be back again, depending on how you look at it. But having said that, I think that I can't find my way into supporting the amalgamation. I think it should be left to the new councillors and the councillors that transition from this council to the next council, and from the Mayor's Council in Rockdale to work out whether they have an appetite for the amalgamations to occur, and whether they really want to go considering what the community suffered when political expediency took over and stuffed us up. So all I'm saying is I can't vote for it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Patras. Deputy Mayor Borg.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. With all due respect, I will be voting against this mayoral minute. While I recognise the merits of the St George Council concept and acknowledge that in 2016, during the amalgamation, there was a strong case for creating such a council from the former Hurstville, Kogarah and Rockdale councils, but the fact remains that it did not come to pass. The amalgamation process has been long and challenging for both the community and our staff. I believe we've now reached a point where stability has been achieved. In my view, this proposal would disrupt that hard-earned stability, causing undue stress amongst the community and our employees. The potential benefits do not, in my opinion, justify the significant upheaval this process would likely cause, and therefore I cannot support it.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Borg. Councillor Koniuski.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. People keep talking about mergers and demergers. I think you guys have got it wrong. This is not a merger or a demerger of either council. Councillor Mayor Bill Sarafinovsky and their council are looking at a demerger. And demerger, unfortunately, does cost the residents and ratepayers, but this is not a demerger. You have to understand that this is a boundary adjustment. A boundary adjustment is dictated by the commissioner, and they are the ones that are responsible for the cost, if I'm not mistaken. I'll get the mayor to address that in his talk in a moment. So a demerger, in fact, displaces not only the residents, but also the staff of the council, whereas a boundary adjustment doesn't do that. Boundary adjustment, in fact, protects the staff and makes sure that they are there as part of the next as part of that council with the new boundaries. So we mustn't be discussing mergers and demergers, because this is not the case. This is just opening dialogue with the community, with the ministers, with the OLG, to consult with the communities and the residents and the ratepayers to see if this is in fact what they are after, to see if in fact this is what they want. And at the end of the day, voting for this particular mayoral minute does not mean that this is a done deal. This is just an opportunity for open dialogue. And I'll leave it at that point.
Thank you, Councillor Koniuski. Any other speakers? Councillor Symington. Sure. Sorry, Councillor.
Okay, so on the back of what Councillor Koniuski said, so when we had to merge the IT systems of Kogarah and Hurstville, through you to the chair to the director of finance or the general manager, it's my understanding it cost hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars to merge them. So if Rockdale came into our council, wouldn't that have to be harmonised and cost a lot of money?
I think through you, Mayor, I'm taking that the question is that there would be an imposed cost if we were to acquire new properties. I think it would depend on the scale of it. It was I think a different element in the amalgamation. Though, depending if it was an acquisition of properties and what was being discussed in the boundary, there'd be further costings required. But I'm sure it would cost money, just the scale of it. I don't know if it would be the same.
Further to that point, Councillor Symington, the challenge that was faced with the Hurstville and Kogarah scenario is that you'll bring two different systems together to bring that information. With a boundary adjustment of taking on new properties, you just simply input them into your own system. There is a cost involved, it's a staff cost, whatever it may be, but I think what you're trying to get to in that there is a significant cost of trying to get that data from a different system and merge it together. You already have a functioning system within Georges River that you could then uptake into.
But if you're trying to merge a different system, if our system is not the same as that system, I'm sorry, there would be a potential huge cost.
I'm no IT expert, Councillor Symington.
Which would essentially would be a cost to the ratepayer. That's right. Okay.
Thank you, Councillor Symington. Any other councillors wanting to speak?
Well, yeah, I'll talk against it. Yeah, thank you. in 2016, the thought of having a St George Council was like the perfect option. But that was taken off the table because of political motivations, because of certain political area that people wanting to have control, which didn't really work out as they wanted to. And I understand, I mean, I like the idea of a St George Council, it makes sense, but you've got a Bayside Council that's still together. There are components of Bayside that want to demerge, and that is still a process that's happening. And I moving forward at the next council, if that went through and they do agree to demerge, I understand if Rockdale came and knocked on Georges River Council's door and said, we want to become a part of your council, I don't see anything wrong with that, but it's not a hostile takeover, which is what it feels like now. And I'm not prepared to support that again, 2.5 months going before an election. I don't think it's the right thing to do. And I think moving forward in the next council, when Rockdale knocks on Georges River Council's door to discuss that and have meaningful conversations about it, instead of being told that it's just going to happen, then I think that would be positive. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Symington. Any other speakers tonight? Okay, councillors, well, it is my mayoral minute, and I put this forward for discussion and for debate. And the beautiful thing about democracy is it's always a contest of ideas and an opportunity to discuss certain matters. Councillors, this idea has been a concept that is being spoken about by our community for some time. We have a community that recognises itself as the St George area. Whether you live here in Georges River, whether you live on the west side of Croydon Road or on the east side of Croydon Road, whether you live on the west side of Rocky Point Road or the east side of Rocky Point Road, whether you live on the upper side of Cogra Station or the lower side of Cogra Station, every single one of our residents across this vast region recognises the St George area. We follow one sporting team, right? And that is the St George Dragons as a rugby league team. We play for one organisation. I was very quiet while everyone else was speaking. I'd really appreciate if I could be extended the same. We have one football association, and that is Football St George, that covers the whole region. Councillors, knowing full well that this is going to be a huge element of discussion amongst this chamber, I wanted to put it forward so that way everyone had an opportunity to put forward their idea or what their thoughts were, understanding full well that there is 2.5 months to go before an election. And in addressing that point, let me say that as an independent mayor, right, this might be the only opportunity where politics could be put aside for one moment, right, where Labor, Liberal, Independents could all come together and put this case forward for the Boundaries Commission to undertake a study and ask our community on what their thoughts were. Would they like to see a community that is bound under one banner, to have council policies that cover the broader St George region rather than having to navigate 2 different council policies? Is it an opportunity to better plan our region? Right, we recently moved a motion at council in terms of making Cogra our strategic centre. We are fortunate to have the Premier of this state being a local member, who in 2016, like in that photo with Councillor Catras and the member for Rockdale, Minister Camper, and the member for Barton, Nicholas Vivaris, and the Mayor of Cogra at the time, Steve Aegis, right, and all the other councillors that were present at the time, also the Mayor of Bayside, stood behind a banner that said, one region, one voice, one St George Council. And the important aspect from that consultation period back then, and it's in the report, and it's stated, in February 2016, in response to the proposal to amalgamate the City of Botany Bay and Rockdale City Council into Bayside Council, Rockdale City Council responded to the New South Wales government stating that community consultation conducted by the council found that 65% of residents responded favourably to a council merger of some kind with community support weighted heavily towards the combining of Rockdale City Council, Cogra City Council, and Hurstville City Council. That is the feedback that our community responded. That was not a decision that we are using in an attempt, right, to put this aside on the back burner because we have a local government election coming up in 2.5 months for 15 individuals that have been elected, right, to decide. If you just take that point alone, right, that shows you that the community is in heavy favour for a St. George Council in the future. That opportunity to do it tonight may not occur, and I'm very well aware of that. However, I find it as an obligation, right, to set that dialogue up and to present that to the New South Wales government for the minister to refer that to a boundaries commission that will then undertake all the necessary independent studies that they need to undertake across the region, right, on what the community's thoughts are on this, what the feasibility of this is, what the costs that are imposed by this. Like I said, I'm no IT expert. None of us here are experts in that field at all. And then it comes back to us as a report for our ability to make a submission then to the minister and to the government at the time of whether we should proceed with such a concept or we should let it go. But I think that our community, our residents, our sporting associations, our business chambers, right, our planning department, our staff, everyone has that right to be able to see what that feedback is, right? This is an opportunity that I think we will pass by, and it will go for a very long time before we get this opportunity to come up. Like I said, I'm an independent mayor that's putting something up. It's not Labor, Liberal or independent, right? But if I tell you what, if it's Liberal putting this up in the future, Labor's going to go on the attack. If Labor puts this up in the future, the Libs are going to go on the attack. And if an independent puts it up in the future, both Liberal and Labor are going to attack the independent, which is just the nature of politics, unfortunately, for elected representatives. And everyone worries about whether they're going to retain their seat into the future, right? I wanted this to be an opportunity for our community to be able to have a say, to provide that feedback. And I can understand all the rhetoric and scaremongering that may go on out there. But believe you me, this is where I believe the future of our area can really thrive. We have St. George Business Chamber here, who's in the moment discussing what they need to do between our council, Georges River, and the council on the other side, and that is Bayside. And we were fortunate, myself, Tony, and also the Mayor of Bayside, to catch up recently about what that means for our business community and our small businesses. Right? We have the largest local area health precinct in Australia, private health precinct in the area here. That's St. George Hospital, St. George Private Hospital, Waratah Hospital, Calvary Hospital, all the health clinics in Cogra. We've got a real opportunity to create that jewel in the St. George region, as Councillor Katras mentioned, right? That gives us a stronger ability to advocate to state and federal governments on seeing funding come into our area so that we can get better playing fields, that we can get better amenities blocks, that we can better town plan our region. We can take off pressure from our local suburbs, whether it be Mortdale, Connors Point, Sans Souci, whatever it may be. You leave the suburban areas alone because you can focus your densities around town centres and really be proud of the town centres that you create, whether it be Cogra, Hurstville, Rockdale, or any other of the town centres, and you create a proper planning process for that. Nonetheless, councillors, I took this opportunity to put it forward. I'll let it now go to a vote. I'll keenly watch this space in the future on what happens from here on in, and I encourage you all to support it. Thank you, councillors. I'll put the motion and I'll call a division. I'll vote in favour. Thank you, Vicky.
Madam Deputy Mayor?
Against.
Councillor Amby Haperhall?
Against.
Councillor Fakara?
Against.
Councillor Jamieson,
Against.
Councillor Katras, Councillor Kanjowski,
For.
Councillor Lansbury,
Against.
Councillor Lou,
For.
Councillor Mort,
Against.
Councillor Smerdley,
For.
Councillor Stratokopoulos,
For.
Councillor Symington,
Against.
Councillor Wang,
Against.
5 votes for, 9 against.
I declare the motion lost. Thank you. Next motion is MM022. Council recognised for outstanding excellence at the Australasian Reporting Awards and the New South Wales Local Government Awards. I move that as the Chair and Mayor of this council, and the motion is that council congratulate council officers for their efforts in achieving awards at the Australasian Reporting Awards and the New South Wales Local Government Excellence Awards. I'll take the report as read. Councillors, any discussion on this? There being none, I'll put the motion. All those in favour say aye. All those against, I declare that carried. Excuse me. Thank you, Mayor of Bayside, Bill Savanovsky, for attending tonight. Our next motion is MM023-24, condolences on the passing of Shirley Connolly, OAM. It is with great sadness that we learned of the recent passing of Miss Shirley Connolly, OAM, mother of the previous Georges River Council General Manager, Gail Connolly, PSM. Shirley was the driving force behind Campbelltown District Netball Association for over 40 years and had been recognised for her efforts at a state level. As a founding member of the Campbelltown Sports Foundation, she contributed to the establishment of the South West Sydney Academy of Sport. Shirley was the driving force behind the growth of netball in the region for 5 decades as both a coach and an administrator, and was instrumental in advocating for the expansion and enhancement of the netball courts and facilities at Coronation Park in Minto. During this period, she coached many East Campbelltown club teams and district netball teams, District Netball Association representative teams. Sorry. As a child, Shirley didn't have the opportunity to play sport, and although she never played netball, she fell in love with the game. After having her 5 daughters play, Shirley recognised the importance of girls playing team sport and saw firsthand the value and rewards of being part of a team. While many people lose that connection and move on to bigger and better things when they become involved at association level, Shirley made sure that she maintained that grassroots connection. Shirley was a shining example of how a single volunteer can drive positive change within the community and provide opportunities for others to participate in sport, and was awarded the Order of Australia Medal for her outstanding contribution to netball in the Macarthur region and more broadly in New South Wales. Member of Parliament for Macquarie Fields, Analak Shadpong, is calling on Campbelltown City Council to rename the netball complex at Coronation Park, Minto Park, in honour of Shirley Connolly, OAM, as a permanent tribute to her dedication to the sport and provide an enduring legacy for her valuable contributions to netball in Campbelltown and the Macarthur district. It would also ensure that her contributions to the local netball community live on in the hearts and minds of future generations of netballers in Campbelltown and Macarthur. Shirley's dedication and passion will be deeply missed. Councillors, my motion that Council extends sympathies to Shirley's family, especially her 5 daughters and 9 grandchildren, and B, that Council provides support for the naming of the netball complex at Coronation Park, Minto, in honour of Shirley Connolly, OAM. I put that motion forward, councillors, if any councillor wishes to say anything. No, we've also got another condolence motion after this, so I might ask everyone to have a moment silent and stand after the next condolence motions, but I'll put this motion first. All those in favour say aye. All those against, I declare that carried. I move on to condolence motion, Deputy Mayor Ball. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move this condolence motion on behalf of Councillor Peter Marnie, who wishes he was here tonight, but he's focusing on his recovery from a very serious car accident. So this condolence motion is for Mrs. Mary Pellegrino. Dear Mr. Mayor, I would like to propose the following condolence motion. I am saddened to inform you of the passing of Mrs. Mary Pellegrino, a much loved and admired member of our Hurstville Georges River LGA business community of over 40 years. Mary passed away on May 26 at the age of 64 after bravely battling illness with grace and courage. For more than 4 decades, Mary and her devoted husband Sam were the heart and soul of Pellegrino Hairdressing, a thriving establishment on Forest Road, Hurstville, just metres away from the bus interchange. Mary and Sam treated every customer as if they were family, creating a sense of warmth and community within their salon. Their commitment to their business and the well-being of their clients was unwavering. Mary and Sam's advocacy for extended Saturday trading hours in the Hurstville Business District in the early 1990s led to historical changes in the laws governing when hairdressers and barbers were permitted to open. Their persistence and resilience in advocating successfully for this change is just one example of their values, work ethic and dedication to providing exceptional service and care to all who frequented their salon. On behalf of the Georges River Council, I extend my deepest sympathies to Sam, Michael, Olivia, and all other family members and friends of Mary Pellegrino as they navigate this time of loss and remembrance. May Mary's legacy of kindness, generosity, and community spirit continue to motivate us all. Sincerely, Councillor Peter Marnie.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Ball. Council, I wish to propose that Council extend our thoughts and condolences and sympathies to the families of the deceased. If we can take a moment's silence and stand for. Thank you. You may be seated. We now move on to committee reports. The first committee report being CCL 037-24, which is the report of the Assets and Infrastructure Committee meeting held on the 11th of June. Do I have a mover for that motion? Councillor Kaniarski, moved by Councillor Kaniarski, seconded by Councillor Liu. Councillor Kaniarski.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move the recommendations of the Assets and Infrastructure Committee meeting that was held on the 11th of June as per the report. Oh, excuse me, I apologise. You're right. ASS, sorry, I move the recommendations of ASS 016 as per the Council's report.
Moved by Councillor Kaniarski, seconded by Councillor Liu. All those in favour say aye. All those against, I declare that carried. Councillor Kaniarski again.
Yep. I'd like to move the recommendations of the Assets and Infrastructure meeting that was held on 11th of June, ASS 018-24.
Moved by Councillor Kaniarski, seconded by Councillor Liu. I'll put the motion, councillors. All those in favour say aye. All those against, I declare that carried. Our next item on the agenda is report CCL 038-24, which is the report of the Community and Culture Committee meeting held on the 11th of June 2024. Councillor Liu.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Before I'm going to move those 3 items, can I make sure through you, Mr. Mayor and Councillor? Yeah, do you want to? Oh, okay. So, and then I move the item COM 0724 and COM 01924 being adopted. So I leave 018 to Councillor.
Okay, so Councillor Liu, you're moving item 17 and 18 of COM, seconded. sorry, 17 and 19.
Yeah, that's right. I
COM.
leave 18 to council.
Yeah, moved by councillor Liu, seconded by councillor Lansbury. I'll put that motion forward to councillors. Any discussion? There being none, I'll put the motion. All those in favour say aye. All those against, I declare that carried. Now we move on to COM 018-24. Councillor
Thanks, Mr. Mayor.
Lansbury.
It's just one small amendment to item D, where it reads that council elects 3 councillors to the Sports Advisory Committee in line with the nominations of all other committees of council in October 2024. If we could delete that last sentence that reads, noting that council representatives are for the duration of the council term, we just wanted to clarify it so that it means that they're actually elected annually. And is that on the, yeah, and we've got that amendment up there now. So it would read that council elects 3 councillors to the Sports Advisory Committee in line with nominations of all other committees of council in October 24 and be re-elected annually. It's just a clarification.
Moved by councillor Lansbury, seconded by councillor Koniarski.
Mr. Mayor,
Oh,
I do have a question, sorry.
Okay, just one moment. Sorry, councillor Lansbury. I might refer that back to being the original mover, councillor Liu, with you seconding, suggesting an amendment to councillor Liu, and then I'll ask councillor Liu whether she accepts that amendment. You accept that amendment, councillor Liu? Sorry, councillor Catlin, just turned it off.
Yes, I do. Thank you.
Okay, so we've got moved by councillor Liu, seconded by councillor Lansbury. Amendment has been accepted, which has now become the motion. Councillor Patras, you have a question.
Yeah, it's just a question to the director. It's basically, I'm asking, I'm looking at all the other standing committees in terms of the membership, and the membership indicates in all other councils a minimum of 4 councillors and a maximum of 10 councillors. And we're talking about only 3 councillors for this standing committee. Could you please explain why this one is different, or why should it be different when the other if it's going to be a formal standing committee, why would it not have a minimum of 4 and a maximum of 10 councillors?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, it's an advisory committee, not a standing committee. So anything that went from this advisory committee would go to the Community and Culture Committee, and that's where the ratio of councillors are that you've just mentioned before. So like traffic or floodplain, that's kind of determined by the terms of reference, how many councillors are there.
And yeah, last question. It was just it says that council complete the trial of the Georges River. Council, when does the trial actually finish?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, the trial finished in, I think it was May this year, when we wrapped up was 1 year of the trial. So we had 5 meetings within that year. And then the review took place where we consulted with the sporting groups and the councillors involved, and then took the report to the Community and Culture Committee, as well as a council briefing about the results of the survey results. Thank you.
Any further questions, councillors? Councillor Deputy Mayor Byrne.
I just have a clarification on the point D where the amendment has been made. I agree with the amendment that we appoint the members annually. I just want to check on the wording, because it says that they'll be appointed in October and then re-elected annually. Do we need to say that they'll be done annually at the same time as all other committees are appointed? Because I believe that's normally September. So does that need to be clarified so that the motion doesn't mean that it's in October as opposed to September?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, we can just delete the words in October. The first elections for this committee will be in October, and then re-elected annually in line with the first part of that the first part of D. So in line with nominations of all other committees of council. Yeah, so grey area, but yeah, happy to delete in October 2024.
I'll put that forward to the mover and seconder if they're happy with that.
Yes.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay. Councillors, any further discussion on this? There being none, I'll put the motion. All those in favour say aye. All those against, I declare that carried. Next item is CCL 039-24, which is the report of the Environment and Planning Committee meeting held on the 11th of June. And before I do that, I wish to welcome Mr. Joseph Hill, who is our new Director of Planning. Welcome to Georges River Council, Joseph, and I hope we don't make your job too difficult, but we look forward to your expertise and guidance on all things planning in our LGA, and welcome to the first meeting of Georges River Council. Deputy Mayor Borg.
Thank you. Yes, I move the recommendation that the Environment and Planning Committee recommendations for item ENV 023-24 as detailed in the report be adopted by Council.
Moved by Deputy Mayor Borg, seconded by Councillor Lansbury. Councillors, any discussion on this? Any questions? There being none, I'll put the motion. All those in favour say aye. All those against, I declare that carried. Next item on the agenda is CCL 040-24, report of the Finance and Governance Committee meeting held on the 11th of June. Councillor Jamieson.
Do we second it first? I'd like to move the recommendations of the Finance and Governance Committee, and in so doing make a special mention of the important work that Project Youth is doing, and thank you for the speaker turning up and speaking about it as well.
Moved by Councillor Jamieson, seconded by Councillor Ambihay Pahar. Councillors, any further questions on this? Any speakers? There being none, I'll put the motion. All those in favour say aye. All those against, I declare that carried. The next item on the agenda is CCL 041-24, which is the Georges River Local Planning Panel third term appointment of panel members. Deputy Mayor Borg.
Thank you. I will move the recommendation, which I think the officers are just going to bring up. So I'm not moving a recommendation, I'm moving an amendment the staff are bringing up. And that is that Council endorse and approve the appointment of the Minister approved independent chairperson and alternates as notified to Council as Mr. Stuart McDonald, chairperson, and Ms. Donna Reigate, the alternate chairperson, and Mr. Anthony Hudson, alternate chairperson. That Council also endorsed the appointment of the following 17 independent expert panel members from the pool of experts as approved by the Minister. I won't read out the names, but they're all listed there. That Council endorsed the appointment of 2 community representatives, Georgia Kissa and Trent Daniels. That Council confirms the appointment of 2 existing community representatives, Fiona Prodonolu and Jenny Simpson, and that the Manager Development and Building undertake a recruitment process for suitable community representatives to fill the current vacancy, the outcome of which is reported to a future Council meeting. And that Council endorsed that each member is to be appointed in accordance with the terms and conditions identified by the Minister for Planning and the New South Wales Department of Planning, Housing and Infrastructure, and that Council endorsed each member is entitled to the payment schedule as listed below. And that is the end of the motion.
Moved by Deputy Mayor Borg, seconded by Councillor Lansbury. Councillors, if there's any discussion on this, we probably need to move into confidential, but if there's no discussion, I can put the motion forward. There being no discussion, I'll put the motion forward. All those in favour say aye. All those against, I declare that carried. Next item is CCL 042-24, tabling of disclosures of interest returns. Councillor Jamieson.
Thanks. I'll move the recommendations.
Moved by Councillor Jamieson, seconded by Deputy Mayor Borg. Councillors, any discussion on this? There being none, I'll put the motion. All those in favour say aye. All those against, I declare that carried. Next item on the agenda is CCL 043-24, Working Together for a Better Future 2022-26 Delivery Program for the 24-25 Operational Plan and Updated Resourcing Strategy. Councillor Jamieson.
Can we actually move it with an amendment, please? A very big amendment. Yeah. And if I could just ask a question.
What I'll do, Councillor Jamieson, so you're moving a motion that's up there on the screen now. Moved by Councillor Jamieson, seconded by Deputy Mayor Borg. Councillor Jamieson, the floor is yours now to ask questions.
Yep, just wanted to verify with the director, who's not here, in a minute. I'll just ask. Yeah, just wanted to confirm if the rail guard is included, the Pensis safety guards is included in the budget.
We're getting thumbs up from the staff at the back there.
Mayor, I believe it is.
Two thumbs up.
Yeah, there's confirmation that it is in the budget.
Thank you. Yep.
Any further questions, Councillor Jamieson? No? Councillor Deputy Mayor Borg.
I'll just make a couple of comments on the budget. First of all, just would like to congratulate the staff led by the director, Danielle Parker, on bringing together the budget, which is obviously affects every single element of the whole council, every staff member, every building, every pathway, everything and every person. So it's a massive job to bring it all together. There's a huge amount of competing interests to get into the budget. I think there was $6 million worth of above business as usual projects that were requested to be included by staff, the community and councillors, and only about $1.5 million of that was actually made its way into the budget at the end. So it is a really tricky job of trying to prioritise all of the competing interests and very important needs across the LGA. The amendment that's been put up is basically we get given guidance as councillors that if we bring things into the budget, we have to take other things out. We have to try to have strong financial stability into the future, and that amendment that is up there does achieve that. And so again, I just would like to congratulate the staff on working with the councillors and giving us very extensive briefings and information we need to make our decisions on behalf of the community. So thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Borg. Any other speakers for Councillor Konyaski? Question?
Just a question, Mr. Mayor. Even though that item for the barrier has been included in the budget, is there any indication of when that'll go to traffic?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I'll take that question on notice, Councillor Konjaski.
Any further questions, councillors? This is a big item. A lot of money. Okay, I'll put the motion. All those in favour say aye. All those against, I declare that carried. Next item on the agenda is NM. Oh, we move on to notices of motion. First notice of motion, councillors, is NM 053-24 traffic congestion in Hurstville CBD. Councillor Liu. Moved by Councillor Liu, seconded by Councillor Konyaski.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think before I'm going to speak on it, I add on 2 points to my motion, which is E and F. So can we see that put on the screen so everyone can read it before I speak on the details? Thank you. Thank you, Nikki. So we all heard from 2 speakers at the beginning of the council meeting during that public forum period of time. That's only, I think, only 2 they experienced that, but I don't think they are alone to experience those difficulties. Not only the people living in CBD, because Hurstville CBD attract people from outside for shopping, for enjoying their weekend, because we only talk about the weekend. Weekdays, I think the traffic in Hurstville CBD is still all right. We only think, especially on Saturday, I do not need to emphasize too much how difficult it is, but if I put this on table, I think everyone would recall maybe their own experience. So that's why I put this motion in front of us. apart from original A, B, C, D, I add up E and F to extra points into my motion. So if I'm going to quickly read it, the first one is more in general, that council notes and the concerns and issues of heavy traffic congestion throughout the Hurstville CBD on weekends, particularly around Westfield Hurstville. B, that the general manager writes to Westfield Hurstville to communicate the congestion issues and confirm that the proper traffic management plans and system are in place for vehicles accessing in Westfield Hurstville Shopping Centre. C, that the communication plan is developed and implemented to inform the local community of the areas of drop-off and pick-up along Almond Parade in the Hurstville CBD. And D, the council officer submit an operational budget bid for consideration in the year 2025-2026, draft the budget to undertake the traffic study in Hurstville CBD. And E, that you can see the council officers right to Transport for New South Wales to review the existing traffic signal movement at the intersection of Park Road and Queen's Road in Hurstville. And the last one will be council officers undertake an investigation to review the existing parking conditions along Forest Road between Park Road and the avenue, that side. I think I just want to say a bit more about the purpose of the second one, because we know Westfield Hurstville will be the largest stakeholders in our area. We can feel all the traffic, not all, but most of the traffic are really around Westfield during the weekend. People try to get into the Westfield and try to get out the Westfield. So that's why you feel always congested and difficulties around Westfield. So that's why we wanted to see council would like to, start the dialogue, communications with Westfield. I think we can recall during the special holiday period time, we can see Westfield put their traffic controller, try to help to go through the Westfield and that kind of measures in place only during the holidays. We wanted to sit down with them to see do we have more those kind of measures in place in different in the year at different times. And the other reason for me to do the point C, because we wanted to emphasize the community, not try to do any pick up and drop off on Forest Road side around the station, because we really council already designed drop off and pick up area at the other side of station, which is on the parade. That's why people sometimes try to do the right thing at the Forest Road side that even make it more difficult for the traffic flow. And the D point is to, because we need, this is a very comprehensive and a very complex, complicated issue. It's not just overnight that we say yes or no or A or B to be the whole package of solutions. So that's why we wanted to see that the budget will be considered for the next financial year, so we can do a comprehensive traffic study in Hurstville CBD. That will be the good data and good grounds that our solutions would based on. And E and F, that's more in particular in these period of time. Hopefully that's could be effective immediately after council do those review, and hopefully that reviews could create some immediate measures put in place in near future. So that's all for my motion. I urge my fellow councillor to support this one. We really wanted to see the things getting better, and the people in not only in Hurstville CBD and people coming from the other areas would enjoy their time during the weekend in Hurstville CBD. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Liu. Councillor Kaniowski.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I do accept those amendments. And the second part of my standing up and speaking to council is that although I do support the motion, over the last term, there has been, I can't think off the top of my head, but there's got to be more than 100 different motions that have come through that really should go to traffic committee. And I think that anything that is to do with traffic studies and traffic, etc., should be directed to the traffic committee and not to council itself, because on one side of the table we've got a councillor asking for different traffic flow, whereas on the other side of the table we've got a councillor asking for extra parking. So these things do need to be addressed through traffic and not straight up at a full council meeting. Also, we have a sports advisory committee whereby any items that need to be addressed as far as sports are concerned should go through the sports advisory committee, and again not brought directly to council for immediate debate. It needs to go to the relevant advisory committees and then to the standing committees and finally to council.
Thank you, Councillor Kaniowski. Councillors, any further discussion? Councillor Wayne.
Thank you.
Are you
Mr. Mayor.
speaking for the motion against?
For the motion, yes.
For the motion.
Yeah, I'll be very brief. Yeah, I fully support Councillor Liu's motion to address the traffic congestion in Hurstville CBD. Hurstville has been bearing the burden of high density development and hosting the major shopping center to serve the whole region. As a result, this suffers from the traffic congestion enormously. Sadly, there were even fatal incidents in Hurstville CBD. So that's why I raised the motion to install pedestrian cross at the Rose Street near Westfield Shopping Center last year. With that, I think it's only fair for the council to invest more in the traffic study and real improvement to help the Hurstville situation and the residents. So I also support the director's comments to take a holistic approach to address the traffic problem, not look into the problem in isolation. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Wayne. And to the point that Councillor Kaniowski makes, the reason why he brings up traffic committee for the knowledge of the broader public is we have experts, we have traffic experts, but also police, emergency services, and other important members of that committee that provide further input as to what changes may happen within the centre or within the city on traffic matters. So point that Councillor Kaniowski makes is very valid, to make sure that we get feedback from those experts and those emergency services as well, and Transport for New South Wales on other items. Councillors, any further discussion on these? There being none, I'll put the motion. All those in favour say aye. All those against, I declare that carried. Councillors, I might put forward a procedural motion that we bring forward item NM 058-24, actions to be taken by council in connection with previous and current allocations and usage of playing fields to Football St George, purely because we have a chamber full of people here, and I don't want you waiting around for the next hour or so before you get your chance. So I'll put that procedural motion forward, councillors. All those in favour say aye. All those against, I declare that carried. We now move on to item 058-24. I'll just give staff an opportunity to get up to speed with that. Sorry, I didn't give you a heads up. Yeah. Councillor Katras being the lead for that motion. Moved by Councillor Katras, seconded by Councillor Smoothly.
Yeah, I first want to thank those people that addressed the council. The first three people, they quite articulate and expressed their concerns in a very emphatic way. I also want to thank those people that didn't get a chance to speak and they are still here. I understand that we had at least three, maybe more people that wanted to speak in favour of this motion. And I think we also had the New South Wales, the director or the boss, if you like, of the New South Wales Football State, the New South Wales State Football Governing Council, Football New South Wales, that also wanted to speak, and I think that her speech has been circulated I presume you all got it. I'm not sure if you had a chance to read it. Having said all that, look, what does my motion seek to do, councillors? In the first part, it acknowledges the long-standing history and contribution, including financial contribution of Football St George clubs to the local community through their previous and continued use of council sports grounds for amateur football. The second part requires council to enter into discussions with Football St George and member clubs in order to review the possibility of effectively sharing the grounds with other codes without displacing the current usage levels of Football St George. The third part acknowledges an alleged previous agreement that council had undertaken that when the works in Todd Park were completed, then they would no longer have to share Harold Fraser Oval with other codes or another code, as it was a temporary measure, and they could revert back to their previous level of access and use. The fourth part acknowledges that there may be increases in community football, and council is to assist Football St George in obtaining further access to fields as necessary and where possible. I won't go through detailed parts 5, 6, 7, and 8, but they relate to the sharing of ground request by council, and further to this, a requirement of Football St George to act in good faith by working with council in identifying potential sharing of grounds, council establishing a communications protocol that allows direct consultation with Football St George, and for council to actively be involved and engage with stakeholders in order to discuss and resolve any conflicts related to ground usage. Councillors, let's accept the fact that Football St George, which has nearly 3,000 female members, registered players, nearly 3,700 male registered players, totaling nearly 11,700 registered players playing in the winter season of 2024, and along with over 230 female teams and over 700 male teams, totaling over 930 teams during the same occasion. Let's accept that it represents the largest community amateur sporting organisation in the St George region. When you include the registered players during the summer months, the total number of registered players increases to over 14,000. That's a hell of a number. What? Yeah. But why stop there? Why stop there, councillors? It's been reported to me that if you include volunteers, stakeholders and families, the broader community that is impacted by the decisions that we make as a council balloons to a total of approximately 40,000 people. Now, when you review such figures, you do come to the quick conclusion that any displacement of the clubs not only disrupts regular activities, but it also affects the larger community that relies on clubs for recreational and social engagement. At this point, let's define sharing as opposed to displacement. Displacement occurs, councillors, when long-term peak sports clubs have been busy. Can I just have a point here, Mr. Mayor? When Councillor Luke and Councillor Nancy Lee was talking, there was no time. 5 minutes. Well, no.
Anyway, Councillor Catras, you need extra. Okay, so you need some extra time.
I need much
Okay,
more.
so I'll ask for an extension. Moved by Councillor Symington, seconded by Councillor Fakara. I'll put the motion. All those in favour say aye. All those against.
At this point, let's
Harry, so
define
Councillor Catras,
sharing.
you have some more time.
Thank you. At this point, let's define sharing as opposed to displacement. Displacement occurs when long-term peak sports clubs have been utilising our fields for a period between 20 and 60 years, such as Football St George have their access and usage restricted by another code without warning. But sharing occurs when negotiations and discussions take place between various codes and usage surpluses are identified by the club that is regularly using a sports ground, and the relevant club invites the other code in to share the sports ground under the auspices of council staff. Now, whilst I understand that the community sporting participation, the community sporting participations are growing, and the need for accessing council's grounds for all sporting codes, it is for all sporting codes, it is important that the limitation of space is not the only risk. There are financial risks also when different clubs share sports grounds because of the increase in the cost of maintenance, when many different codes are given access to grounds. Some sports codes are more aggressive and more vigorous than other sports codes, thus leaving the sports ground with significant damage after their use. Compare, for instance, the different impacts on our sports grounds between football, rugby and cricket. What appears to have come out from my discussions that I've had with the chair and some board members is that we are not considering the history of the clubs at their local grounds, and we are not considering the fact that Football St George do not have a significant capacity to share grounds in all circumstances, because they are having to deal with wet weather and vital training allocations for teams. The solution in accommodating other sports codes is not by displacing Football St George from their historic grounds, by entering into meaningful discussions and negotiations with Football St George and other codes in order to establish the actual surpluses that may be available to other codes. We must also keep in mind that the logistics of allocating playing fields to some 14,000 registered players, consisting of around 1,270 teams, is almost insurmountable. Women's football has been given an incredible stimulus by the exceptional performances of the Matildas, who are now playing in front of sellout crowds. In our local area, we have a combined total for winter and summer, some 4,000 registered female players. Yes, councillors, football's on the move, and we need to further demonstrate our commitment to a just and properly negotiated system of sharing fields without displacing clubs that have the historical needs to access our sports field. Football St George represents over 70,000 community members, and they are the largest amateur football organisation in our local area. I commend my motion to you, and I would hope that you support it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Catras. Councillor Smurley is a seconder of that motion. You reserve your right.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Bork.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I actually have an amendment I would like to propose, if that could be brought up, and I'll read it out. Point 1, that council acknowledges that Football St George plays a vital role in the Georges River community as the governing body for football within the Georges River area, and delivers valuable services including but not limited to competition management, development programs, coach and referee education, community engagement, facilities management and advocacy and support for member clubs. Part 2, is that council recognises the increased demand for access to council's playing fields of each sporting code and the subsequent need to foster shared use of assets amongst sports associations and clubs, aligning with recommendations in the community infrastructure needs assessment area acquisition strategy. And point 3, that council staff continue to work closely with Football St George and all sports associations and clubs to streamline systems and processes for transparent information sharing, ultimately supporting grassroots sports through the implementation of council strategies and the Sports Advisory Committee. That's the amendment. If I can have a seconder, I'll
Councillor Ball is moving an amendment. I have to go back to the original mover and seconder and see if they wish to accept that amendment. Not accepted by the mover and seconder. Councillor Ball proposes an amendment. Do I have a seconder for that amendment?
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Seconded by Councillor Lansbury. Councillor Ball, you have first right to speak to your amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I appreciate the representations from Football St George in the public forum tonight, and the support of the football community who have come here present tonight also to show their support. As the governing body of football in the area, Football St George advocates for a significant number of Georges River residents. Our council staff do an excellent job trying to meet the growing needs of the ever competing demand for our playing fields. As a council, our obligation is to have processes and policies in place that promote equity, transparency and fairness. The reality is that we have a finite amount of playing fields and an ever increasing demand for them. That demand is only growing and is only going to continue to grow as our population grows. So council does need to do things differently to how it may have been done in the past so that we can provide playing field access to all sporting codes. This amendment endorses those principles of fairness, transparency and equity, and empowers our council officers to apply our processes and policies to achieve this goal. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ball. Councillor Lansbury.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I also would like to acknowledge our speakers that we had here tonight and our written submissions as well. And I'm sorry that not everybody could speak, but it's a very passionate issue for all of you. I know that. You volunteer your time week after week. And I, for one, have had a long time association with football. Many of you know my son, I think, Billy Kirk, and everyone knows him, not me, but I'm Billy's mum. The thing is, council does have, as Councillor Ball mentioned, finite resources that we have to spread around, and there are competing interests from everywhere. The report indicates that Football St George has access to 88% of our fields. That's a really high number, given the fact that there are a number of other sporting codes that do need the fields. Obviously, some of them are seasonal, but I just made a quick list of some of the competing sports that need access to fields, and it's AFL and football, including soccer, of course, rugby league and union. There's cricket, there's OzTag, there's baseball, there's futsal. All of these sports are administered by people as passionate as you all are, and our job as councillors is to try and make everybody happy. One of the first things you find out when you are a councillor is you can never make everybody happy, but you've got to try and make as many people happy as you can. It's a very difficult ask. Our council officers have put a lot of work into rejigging the booking system and managing the process of field allocation, and it's always an ongoing process. It's never a perfect process because the weather interrupts, as we know. You've had a bit of a washout so far this season, and going back to, let's say, March 2022, when really the only fields that were operating were the synthetic fields in the LGA for several weeks. And it's most unfortunate, but unfortunately these sports are dependent on the weather being clear enough for the fields to be safe to play on. There's always people that are critical of that, of council shutting them too early, but the reality is they never, if they're used during inclement weather and they become mud baths and they never actually repair, and they all, for all intents and purposes, become out of action for longer. So it's a really difficult job that our council officers have to balance with you all. I completely respect where you're coming from, but I think please understand that this is something that we have to, our role as councillors is to try and cater for all of our community, not just certain sections of it. My concern with the original motion is that it seeks to overrule the work, or override, I should say, the work that our council officers have done in field allocation and I think they do work rather closely with Football St George and all the other sporting codes. I think that Councillor Borg's amendment does actually sorry, Councillor Catchers, I think it's a better way for us to go forward rather than focusing all of our attention of supporting one particular sport. That's how it will be seen by the other competing sports, that Football St George has been given an advantage. And when you see the report that says that they do have 88% of access to the fields, it's a pretty hard argument to go even further. I'm sorry about that. But, you know, we had the Sports Advisory Committee instituted earlier, no, it was last year, wasn't it? And we're going into its second term in the new term of council. It's been I think, a really successful project. At this point, we had representatives from 15 different sporting codes. Not all of them are competing with you. There's basketball and swimming and athletics. They're not actually competing for field space, but it does give you some idea of there is only so much that can go around. We're not in a position to acquire additional open space to create more fields. We've got to make the most of the ones we've got. And if that means investing in better drainage and maintenance, well, then so be it. That's the road that we're going to have to go down. But councillors, I would encourage you to consider supporting Councillor Borg's amendment, because I think that it's a much more fitting amendment for us to be considering here tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lansbury. Councillor Catchers.
Yeah, I rose to speak against this, but before I actually speak against the Councillor Borg's amendment, the figure 88.5% of the field, what does that mean? How has it been calculated? And does that mean hours? Does that mean 85% of fields where Football St George plays 1 hour? I mean, what does that 85% represent? How have you calculated it?
Agree, Mr. Chair. It's the turf sports fields that we have on offer. They're Football St George have 88.5% of the use of those fields.
Yeah, but a follow-up question, 88.5, I'm not going to hamper this because it could be, they've got 88%, 88.5% use of the fields, and one field they play for an hour, another field they play for an hour, that all counts as a percentage.
So agree, Mr. Chair. That's not how the field allocation's booked. It's per night or like 7 nights a week. So it's per night that percentage is based off.
Okay, well, I'll let it go because I think that 88%, 88.5%. Yeah, it needs a bit more clarification, but I'll leave it alone because that's not the issue. The issue here, you're missing the point. Not you, not the captain, not the director. We are missing the point, and I'll tell you why. This amendment by Councillor Borg basically says we've all got to share. Councillor Lansbury also indicated we've all got to share. So what we're saying is 14,000 registered players have to share with 200 players that may be playing volleyball or hockey or something like this. Does that mean, councillors, that these 14,000 players, which is a nightmare, a logistic nightmare for anybody to do, let alone the council office, let alone Football St George, it's a logistic nightmare to deal with. But in the meantime, what we'll do, 200 players want to play rugby. Let's get rid of Football St George in this playing field for 3 days a week because 200 players want to play something else. You know, you've got to understand, you're talking about Goliath and David. You're talking about one little person throwing the rock and knocking over Goliath because they can. Because they can. And because we have this wonderful idea of sharing. And sharing is great when it's equitable on the basis of number of players, not on the basis of, I want to play, what do you call it? Handball. I've got 50 people that want to play handball. Councillors, look at the scale of what we're talking about. We're talking about the biggest and the largest, amateur football community in our whole region. And we need to displace them for smaller. And I just can't understand the logic. I presume that the council officers are taking into consideration the scale of Football St George as opposed to the scale of other codes. It's not about getting rid of displacing Football St George so we can encourage me to play fucky or to play, what do you call, whatever it is. Anyway, having said that, I really do think another element has to be brought into the discussion and into the equation is what is the scale of one group, one organisation to the scale of another organisation in terms of share. Thank you.
Councillor Amber Haper.
Oh,
Thanks. I just briefly want to speak in support of the amendment by Councillor Borg. I think what's important to also indicate in that amendment is the aspect of community engagement. So besides being a councillor and trying to support our local sporting teams, one of the things that I get is a lot of complaints around the aftermath around, you know, football activities with hooning, rubbish, all those things that come in. Obviously, Giffords Park is an example that comes up. That's been a lot of residents that complain to us. So I think it's real. I know some of you are laughing, but it's us as councillors get those issues raised to us, and we need to find a way to balance some of those issues of making sure you're able to use those facilities, but also ratepayers that also need to use the parks fairly. So I think it's important that this amendment should be supported by councils around the Horseshoe, because I think it's more than just sports. It's also the local residents that also need to have some enjoyment. And mind you, I think it's also very important. I understand that football is rising, but also homelessness as well. And some of you might be aware that there are people that are camping out at Giffords Park. So this is a really important issue that we should take into consideration some of the community engagement aspect too, which I think this amendment does cover.
Thank Councillor Mort.
I too would like to support Councillor Borg's motion, as I find, you know, we cannot discriminate against all our different sporting codes and people in general that of the different sporting groups that want to use our playing fields. I think it's important that it's shared right across the LGA, and one code cannot take the majority of our playing fields. Thanks.
Any further discussion, councillors? Councillor Borg.
I think, oh, sorry.
You've got a question? Councillor Kaniarski's question.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to see when Councillor Catras staff picked up his statistics for rugby league having only 200 players and handball having 50, and then bocce doesn't even use the field.
We'll allow Councillor Catras to take that on notice to come back to us at some time. Thank you, Councillor Catras. Councillor Deputy Mayor Borg.
Thank you. I just want to respond to some of the comments from Councillor Catras that I don't believe this amendment in any way is promoting or encouraging or endorsing displacement. In fact, it's doing just the opposite. It's empowering our staff to continue with the operational processes they have in place under the policies and procedures that we have, to use their expertise to negotiate and collaborate with the community of all the sporting codes. So this amendment in no way is in displacing anybody. In fact, it's doing the opposite. And our council officers work very hard to try to accommodate everyone. You speak to the director, they say they're damned if they do, they're damned if they don't. Because the soccer community is tonight, but we also have all of these other requests from a lot of other community groups, and a lot of people who play soccer playing all of those other community groups as well. So it's common residents who are playing multiple codes. So we do need to try to accommodate all of our sporting codes, and this amendment in no way promotes anybody being displaced. It empowers the staff to work collaboratively, and I'll leave it there. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Borg. And before I put it to a vote, please know that the council officers, councillors, myself, the general manager are always open to having further discussions on this, and I see this as a good dilemma to have in our community, having such an active sporting community in our local area. But I'll put that amendment to a vote now. Councillors, I'll take it by division. I vote for the motion, for the amendment, sorry.
Deputy Mayor,
For the amendment.
Councillor Amby Haperham,
For.
Councillor Fakara,
Against.
Councillor Jamison,
For.
Councillor Catras,
Yes.
Councillor Kanjarski,
For.
Councillor Lansbury,
For.
Councillor Lou,
Against.
Councillor Mort,
For.
Councillor Smerdley,
Against.
Councillor Stratokopoulos,
Against.
Councillor Symington,
Against.
Councillor Wang.
For.
Mr. Mayor. Happening good.
8 votes for the amendment, 6 votes against.
8 votes for the amendment, 6 votes against. That means that the amendment now becomes the motion. So we will put that forward as the motion, and we'll take another vote for the motion now.
Go around again.
Yep, I vote for.
Deputy Mayor,
For.
Councillor Amby Haperham,
For.
Councillor Fakara,
Against.
Councillor Jamison,
For.
Councillor Catras,
Yes.
Councillor Kanjarski,
For.
Councillor Lansbury,
For.
Councillor Lou,
Against.
Councillor Mort,
For.
Councillor Smerdley,
Against.
Councillor Stratokopoulos,
Against.
Councillor Symington,
Against.
Councillor Wang.
For.
8 votes for, 6 votes against.
I declare the motion carried. And I also wish to thank all the sporting organisations that made it here tonight for being involved in deliberations. I'll give an opportunity for those that we wish to leave.
Fix it, yeah. Yeah, yeah, leave it, leave it. Leave it. Put in, and then we can start.
Councillors, we now move on to the next item on the agenda, and that is MM0. Sorry, councillors. Councillors, we move on to the next item of NM054-24, partnership with Service New South Wales Business Bureau. Moved by Councillor Wang, seconded by Councillor Lou. Councillor Wang, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councillors, I'm really excited to present this motion to the council, as we have witnessed the true power of partnership between the council and the service NSW. As you just have heard from the local businessman, he's really struggling with a lease renewal, and with the help of the Service New South Wales, he was able to receive New South Wales Small Business Commission's help and secure a specialist retail value for mediation service. Such support was previously unheard of, but the Service New South Wales has opened new opportunities. Another business wanted to convert part of its floor space for a different line of business, a process typically requiring lengthy approvals. After discussion with Service NSW, Catherine recalled a similar case from another suburb. Within a week, she produced a PowerPoint presentation for the business case. The exceptional kindness and service went above and beyond. A third business aimed to export Australia's top medical technology to China, but lacked but lacked support from the Australian government. Service NSW again facilitated help from Investment NSW, showcase their dedication to assisting local businesses. I have also discussed the George River Council's nighttime economy strategy with Service NSW. They offered to reach out to the Office of Liquor and Gaming, demonstrating their proactive approach. Let me quote from Lucas Heston, Business Relationship Manager from Service NSW. Small businesses have raised issues with us, including concerns about the return from COVID, challenges in the tourist sector, labor high, parking issues, business operating expenses, and the difficulties with red tape encountered in development application approvals. The Service NSW Bureau is already supporting small business in the George River area. This includes providing a dedicated frontline team with 12 business concierges specialized serving 21 local government areas in the Sydney Central catchment, which includes the George River Council area. End quote. Service NSW has truly embodied the concierge role, unlocking a wide range of NSW state government services for local businesses. The City Future team did a fantastic job organizing the business work. They not only talked talk, but also worked work. So I eagerly anticipate Small Business Month in October. So where I enjoy promoting Service NSW and supporting local businesses, I need your backing for this motion. It will help share this valuable message with a broad business audience and strengthen the relationship between the Council, Service NSW, and our business community. Thank you for your support.
Thank you, Councillor Wang. Councillor Lu.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, that's why I'm going to support Councillor Wang's this motion partnership with Service New South Wales Business Bureau. Yeah, thank you again for City Futures team that we really spent a successful walk along the CBD area, along the both sides of the Forest Road. I don't think that's the end of this kind of walk. Hopefully next time we are going to, along with New South Wales people, to be in the other business center. So Simon, I know that you are going to, your staff with you are going to cooperate those kind of work for us. I think it means a lot. Not only just the work. We find out the problems. We talk to the people. I think it's a good, not only a gesture. It's really a way that to try to find out the solutions and try to find the support for the local business. I think it's a good start. So congratulations. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lu. Councillors, any further speakers on this motion? There being none, I'll put the motion. All those in favour say aye. All those against, I declare that carried. Next item on the agenda is NM 055-24, exemption from low and medium rise housing reforms.
Thank you,
by Councillor Katras, seconded by seconded Louise. No. Councillor Kanyarski seconded it.
Thank you, Councillor.
Just the debate.
Look, it's a pretty straightforward motion, Mr. Mayor. Basically, what it asks for is a very simple request from the Honourable Paul Scully MP, just to ask him where we're going. Where are we? What have we done? How far have we gone? You know, with regards to the exemption that we've requested from you. The exemption basically indicates that we could probably achieve somewhere about 8,500 dwellings, and apparently our target is only 6,300. Now, the issue that we have here, and what I've been trying to get at, is have we had a response? The director has indicated no, we haven't had a response. I've also indicating could we at least write to them and find out where we're at, what are we doing, how far have they gone into looking to looking at our exemption. If we, and also if we're going to be offered an exemption, under what conditions? I mean, they don't just offer you an exemption saying you've done a really good job, you know, thank you very much. You can do what you like with what you've just proposed to us. They will put conditions on it. The next thing is, if we're not going to be granted an exemption, what are we going to be under? Are we going to be under a SEP? Are we going to be a separate SEP, another policy, etc.? And of course, the last bit, what sort of statutory instrument are we going to have to follow if we're not offered an exemption? The director has indicated that in response to the above, the only thing that we've been told is that the Department of Planning, Housing and Infrastructure have confirmed that the implementation of low and mid-rise housing proposal will be through an amendment of the existing state environmental planning policy. So we're basically, if we don't get the exemption, we're going to be stuck with the housing planning policy. So all I'm asking for is for a letter to be sent.
Thank you, Councillor Katras. Councillor Kaniarski? No. No? Councillor Lansbury.
Mr. Mayor, I just had some questions for the director. Mr. Hill, welcome, and sorry to sort of throw you in the hot seat right now. Just based on Councillor Katras's motion, my take on the letter of the 23rd of April from the Mayor to Minister Scully was it was basically an overview of the actions that Council is taking to support our previous request for a deferral or exemption from the application of the proposed low and mid-rise housing reform, and including the preparation of a planning proposal to increase housing capacity in GRC. So basically, we're just sort of, there wasn't really an ask for him to respond to us. That was my understanding. Is that correct?
Stand up. Through Mr. Mayor. Yes, that is correct. I think Council is now in a very good position to put that planning proposal to Council for formal endorsement, and then take it off to the department with a proposed way forward, and look to engage with both staff and ministers if possible.
I have some follow-up questions, if that's okay. And today, councillors have been provided with a timeline for this process several times, including that the planning proposal would be referred to the local planning panel for determination in June. And my understanding is that this planning proposal was endorsed by the local planning panel last week on the 20th of June. Is that correct?
Just stay seated. Okay, through Mr. Mayor. Yes, that is correct. The panel has recommended and endorsed Council's position on the matter, and it will go to the Planning Committee on the 8th of July and Council on the 22nd of July.
Yeah, well, that was actually another one of my questions. So it was coming back to Council for endorsement in July, and that's to forward it to the Department for gateway determination. And then I think that the department will then assess it and make a recommendation to the minister on whether to grant a deferral or exemption. I mean, he's not just going to decide like that. He's actually going to have to take advice once they've assessed the planning proposal. Is that correct?
Once again, through Mr. Mayor, that is indeed correct. The split in terms of my interpretation of that question is the planning proposal that Council will put to them needs to be assessed by Council staff and responded to through a gateway determination, which is the document they respond to. That's slightly different to assessing a request for a deferral, which is essentially a discretionary decision of the minister, not subject to plan making procedures.
Therefore, so it's still actually following the required legal process in order to seek an exemption or deferral, aren't we? Are we? Yes.
Through Mr. Mayor, technically it's not a legal process we're following. You are entitled to ask for an exemption to a set of planning reforms that have no certainty at this point in time. That's an entitlement of Council to do so, and we just need to wait and see what the minister's response is. The best angle and the best preparation Council can have is to have the alternative or a position of Council which is in the planning proposal. So Council is in a very good position to influence that. Once it's adopted by Council, we need to take that forward through staff and through elected members.
Just one final question, if I may. So, respectfully, could it be considered a little premature to be following up on the letter of the 23rd of April, given that it's only really a few weeks ago, to seek a response from the minister on those things when the planning proposal is still yet to be endorsed for by Council for Gateway and then assessed by the department?
Through Mr. Mayor, I'm not sure if it's premature. Council's well within its rights to lobby any time and ask for a follow-up answer. I certainly think we're in a better position. We have an endorsed position of council, which will be achieved within the month.
Yeah. Councillors, any further questions? There being none, I'll put the motion. All those in favour say aye. All those against? Thank you. We call for a division. I vote against the motion.
Deputy Mayor,
Against.
Councillor Amby Haverhall,
Against.
Councillor Jamieson,
Against.
Councillor Catrice, Councillor Kanjowski,
For.
Councillor Lansbury,
Against.
Councillor Liu,
Against.
Councillor Mort,
Against.
Councillor Wang.
Yes. I declare the motion lost. Something to. Next motion is NM 056-24, review of attacking dock penalties and owner identification. Councillor Catrice. So are you going to move it? So are you deferring it? Okay, so
You know, I'm just whispering it out from here, but I don't.
all and you shall receive. So are you deferring it, or are you moving a motion now? Councillor Catrice has deferred this motion to the next meeting. We can now move on to NM 057-24. Congratulations to the Australian Chinese New Art Society. Councillor Wang. Moved by Councillor Wang, seconded by Councillor Liu.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Before I start, I think Dr. He and Ms. Zhao would like to present this school books to the council. Yeah.
I'm sorry, Councillor Wang. We should have apologised. We should have done a procedural motion to move that item forward. I'm sorry to keep you both waiting here tonight, but thank you for remaining behind and also presenting and tabling those books for council. Get Vicky and the staff to put that forward.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you so much. Councillor Wang, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you. 4 books in 5 years. There's so much to celebrate about this book series, but we should be especially proud that it all started right here in George River Council. In 2019, the Australia Chinese New Art Society received a grant from George River Council and collaborated closely with the community and cultural team on this project. The goal was to create a book collecting personal stories from Chinese immigrants over the past 30 years. Miss Anne-Marie from the CNC team played a pivotal role in this book's publication, even suggesting the name of this series, Too Blue to Be True. Our community and culture team has done an outstanding job engaging with, supporting, and guiding the multicultural community over the years. And the success of this book series is a major achievement for this country. Since the first book, the series has grown stronger. The Arts Society was overwhelmed with submission, and to this date, it has published 145 stories, each one a real personal account from Chinese immigrants. Many of the authors a resident of Georges River, just as the Art Society is based here. The author come from all walks of life, giving the book a rich artistic flavor. The series includes stories from many Australia's significant Chinese artists, including Dr. Ban Dongwan, who contributed artwork to the council last month. And one of the speakers tonight, Dr. Ho, is the leader of the Chinese literature community. From its beginning at this council, the book series has reached the New South Wales state level, successfully securing grants from Multicultural NSW. In 2022, the Arts Society launched the Too Blue to Be True arts exhibition at the Fountain Court of the New South Wales Parliament House. They have also organized numerous events, including music shows and arts exhibitions based on the stories from the books. This month, with the launch of the fourth book, the series has taken to the national stage. It now includes stories from all Australian states and the territories, except Tasmania and the Northern Territory. In Queensland, the authors have even formed a writers group because of this book. The Queensland team attended the New South Wales Parliament House book launch and led the audience in singing I Am Australia, which was one of the most touching moments of the event. The highlight of the launch was, of course, a speech by New South Wales Premier Chris Minns. Let me conclude by quoting his words about this book. What a precious gift to the next generation of young Australians. Congratulations to the authors. You are doing a wonderful thing by preserving this history and this heritage, because this history and this heritage is Australian history. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Wang. Councillor Liu?
Thank you, Mr. May. Yeah, I don't want to repeat too much. I think Councillor Wang's speech is already very detailed. The only thing, when you look at the detail in the report, is that's in accordance with the council resolution NM080-19. If my memory is correct, that's back to 2019. That's from my motion, I think. Yeah, it really, fresh my memory. So thank you to that kind of pattern to work with the community. Yeah, I remember that's the first book being introduced to the community in Georges River. I'm glad to see more books will be collected and restored in our library. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Liu. Councillors, any further discussion on this item? There being none, I'll put the motion. All those in favour say aye. All those against, I declare that carried. Next item is NM059-24, Compliant Development Certificate. Moved by Councillor Catras, seconded by Councillor Smith.
Look, I think this one you've got to think seriously about, because in actual fact it's for the protection of the community. I think what's happening, I'm sure many of us have already suffered this as councillors, and I think the staff have suffered this also. Basically, what's happening is that complying development certificates by private certifiers are given out, and the person next door or the adjacent neighbour has no say whatsoever. And I understand that complying development certificates were meant to try and facilitate and push along a lot of development, but there is an anomaly here, a major anomaly. And the major anomaly is that, one, the neighbour never gets to see the drawings, never gets to see the presentation, can't find them anywhere. And if in the kindness of the private certifier's heart, he might just give you a glimpse, or she might just give you a glimpse, and you can hope for the best. Now, that is wrong. Now, as I said, I understand compliant development is supposed to be facilitating development approvals quickly, but at the expense of the impact of the next door neighbour. I understand that what do you call it? And I've read right through it. Our campaign, which has been conducted by the council officers, have done a really good job on many of these things. The only issue we have here that this is standing out so much in our community. All complying development certificates now, you can't even get to see them on the portal, which means, number one, the next door neighbour doesn't even know whether they're complying or not with the complying development certificate that's been provided by the private certifier, right? And number two, they've got nothing, they can't do anything about it. And most neighbours are not interested in what you're putting inside your house. What they're interested in is what's impacting on them in terms of the elevations, right? And does it really comply? I mean, now think of this. You've got a 5.5 to 6 metre setback in the front. Let's say you've got 130 metre, sorry, let's say 30 to 40 metre prop, 40 metre length. And then you've got a 6 metre setback in the back. And the rest of it can go all the way 1 metre away from your boundary. 1 metre. With windows, you name it. They've got privacy screens, but honestly, you don't have, some of them are turning around and just putting films and indicating there's a privacy screen. And then what they do is they rip the film off. So the next door neighbour is really suffering a hell of a lot with regards to this. Now, what I'm proposing is very simple. It's basically saying that, hey, see, what they've got now is that you get a, what do you call it, a form, you get the next door neighbours gets a 14-day time period for them to say, boo, nothing else. They're not going to look at the plants. They're not going to look at anything else. So there's nothing that they can do. Now, the next door neighbour is nothing. Now, what I'm actually saying here, increase that to 21 days. Now, as you all know, there are, in the complying development process, there are prescriptive or numerical requirements. So if you tick the boxes in the numerical, they can give that. But some unscrupulous types don't. You don't know what you're going to get. So the floor space ratio could be over. There are a number of areas on the elevations that they can provide. As I said to the director, the what do you call it, the acting director, I'd rather have a block of units next to me than a compliant development dual occupancy. Why? Because a block of units can be set back from your boundary by 6 to 9 metres. Now, and all I'm saying here is there should be a process of review by the commissioner, the building commissioner, where he goes off and says, right, we've got a complaint here, have a look, does it comply with all the numerical? I'm not talking about objection. I'm talking about does it comply with the numerical requirements? Tick, 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 fine, we've got no comments. But if it doesn't comply with the numerical requirements, then if it doesn't comply with the numerical requirements, then send it back to the private sector to correct it. Nothing else. And I'm also saying, put these plans on the portal so people can look at them and say, I'm going to get my architect or town planner or whatever I have to check it numerically. I'm not talking about objections numerically. So this is all that this is doing. To write to the what do you call it, the Honourable Paul Scully, and say, consider this as a possibility because there are a lot of compliant development certificates. And there only have to be 1 metre away from the boundary. Dual occupancy manor houses, attached terraces, and they're actually. And I really feel for the neighbours that are going to suffer what's happening with these committees.
Thank you, Councillor Catras. The seconder of that motion, Councillor Smerdley, do you wish to add anything further? No. Councillors, any discussion? Councillor Lansbury.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I'm going to speak in support of this notice of motion, Councillor Catras. I think it has a lot of merit. Two of the things that as councillors we hear a lot of complaints about are complying developments and private certifiers, and unfortunately the two do often go hand in hand. And one of the common complaints is that something is going on next door and the resident maintains that they never had any notification of it. They have tried to contact the certifier and they're not really obliged to be that cooperative. I think the whole thing has gone far too far, and I've been quoted before as saying I think that they're tools of the devil, because I really do. I think that a lot of the control of by council as to what is appropriate development in certain locations just seems to be passed over to ticking boxes. And I remember finding out a couple of years ago that swimming pools could be achieved by a complying development, which I find extraordinary because of the impact that can have on the neighbours if they're not located in the right place. And just the fact that, as you're saying, all of those types of developments really do need a greater oversight. And apart from that, the measures that you have proposed here, Councillor Catras, mean that there is greater opportunity for people to become aware of what's actually being proposed over a longer period, and just there needs to be more accountability for complying development. The caravan has moved on from, carports and things like that, which they were quite useful for back in the early days, and to be able to get sign off on a complete rebuild under compliant development is just extraordinary to me. So, I do support this for the reasons that you outlined, and I would encourage people to support it.
Councillors, any further discussion? There being none, I'll put the motion. All those in favour say aye. All those against, I declare that carried. Next item is councillors, questions with notice. Unless Councillor Wang has a specific question that he wishes to further make, I'll put question with notice 016, 017 and 018 forward to Councillor Wang to ask any further questions. Just indicate which question you want to ask on which item first.
Yes, so I have a question about the 1724 about the parking issue. So I asked a question about the fines happened during this part of the road. I don't think it's answered. So that's my question.
Can you just repeat that? Sorry, Councillor Wang.
Sure. Sorry. So that's the question. Let me read out. QWN 017-24. Yeah. So point 2.3. What's the stats for fines incurred for illegal drop off, pick up, and upload in this area? So if the number is too high, could indicate a flaw in our traffic design that fails to consider common sense needs like shopping, drop offs, and pickups. So yeah.
Councillor Wang, we might need a little bit more time to be able to get back to you with those answers. So if you can just give us that one more month.
Sure, not a problem. So the other question, probably I got the answer. So the council office will undertake an investigation and contact the bus operator to clarify the purpose of the bus zone between 306 and 314 Forest Road. Any proposed to relocate or remove bus zones are subject to approval from the bus company and TF NSW. So yeah, so I just want to confirm this is in progress. It's very important. Yeah.
To the director.
Yeah.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, yes, it is in progress. So that will be referred to a traffic advisory committee.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Wang. There being no further questions, I'll put the questions with notice. No, there's no need to. Sorry, slip there. Okay, councillors, we now move. We need to move a procedural motion at this point. The time being 9:55 p.m. The meeting will move into a committee of the whole to allow consideration of a matter in closed session in accordance with Section 10A of the Local Government Act 1993. that in accordance with Section 10A Clause 2 of the Local Government Act 1993, Council enter into a closed session to discuss CCL 027A-24, which is property matter, proposed reclassification and sale of Parkmore Park, Beverley Park. That in accordance with the provisions of Part 1 of Chapter 4 of the Local Government Act 1993, the matters dealt with in this report be considered in closed meeting at which the press and public are excluded. In accordance with Section 10A(2)(e), it is considered that the matter contains information that would, if disclosed, prejudice the maintenance of law, and 10A(2)(c), information that would, if disclosed, confer a commercial advantage on a person with whom the council is conducting or proposes to conduct business. Accordingly, members of the press and public are excluded from the closed session, and access to the correspondence and reports relating to the items considered during the course of the closed session will be withheld. I'll ask the General Manager if there have been any written representations of objection from the public.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, no, there hasn't.
Okay, so I'll move a procedural motion that we move into closed session, moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Smerdley. For the members of the public and the press, sorry, I'll put that motion forward. All those in favour say aye. All those against, I declare that carried. For the members of the public and the press, live streaming will cease and resume following the confidential session of council. Once the items are addressed, the live streaming will recommence and the resolutions which occurred in closed session will be confirmed. We will then deal with the remaining items on the agenda if there are any. And then just yeah, so okay, councillors, we're back live streaming. The recommendation moved by the confidential closed session is up on the screen. I'll leave that up there for a moment, and then I'll call for a motion to adopt the resolutions from the closed session.
I'll move that, Mr. Mayor.
Moved by Councillor Kaniarski, seconded by Councillor Katras. I'll put the motion. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
All those against, I declare that carried. There being no further items on the agenda, I declare this meeting closed at 10:02 p.m. Thank you.